It's time for Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott and Richard Campbell are here. Actually, Paul's in Mexico City. Richard's in Toronto. We will be talking about, yes, Windows recall and the attack of the Copilot Plus PCs. Paul says, hold your horses. There's nothing to worry about yet. We'll also talk about the Framework laptop, Windows 11, Bing celebrating a big birthday, and Apple and OpenAI, Microsoft's hot and mad. All of that's coming up next on Windows Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Richard Campbell. Episode 884, recorded June 5th, 2024. Sentient Meat. Hello, Windows dozers and winners. It's time for a show. We call it Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Richard Campbell. Hello, Paul Thurrott and Richard Campbell.
Hello, Leo Laporte.
Traveled
Hello, Leo.
to new destinations. Richard is in a gilded cage, but I think it's Toronto.
Yeah, it's a Sheraton. It's like a gilded cage, only different.
And
that hotel chain has the same love of gold things as my dad does.
There you go.
You know, you move into his house, it's like all gold, faucets and, other stuff. It's like that.
My goal whenever I'm shooting from a hotel room is to not have the bed in the shot.
Yeah.
That's all I'm trying to do. So you get the drapes.
You look like King Midas.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
It gives the skin a nice warm glow too. You, on the other hand,
very on the warm glow side. I should probably change the color temperature of the light.
Paul, because you don't match. Paul's in like blue land. Paul is in the land of the eternal sun, Mexico City.
Believe it or not, these lights are the warmer variety. Like this, we actually switched from like really blue lights.
Wow,
I know.
Well, you have both traveled since we saw you last, but that doesn't mean you're not ready to go on a fine
I'm ready to go, baby.
Windows Weekly. Let's start with the Copilot Plus PCs. What do you say?
I'm excited.
Are you?
Yeah.
June 18th, right? That's the date, June 18th.
Well, that's a date. I think is the way I would say it. I like the way that Microsoft has thrown another wrench into the confusion that is our lives. You remember back in December when Intel launched the Meteor Lake processors, right? The first gen Core Ultra PCs based chipsets, rather. They introduced this term AI PC, and then Microsoft 5 months later said, "Yeah, we're gonna have something called Copilot Plus PCs." And it's like, guys, really? So in the sense that a Copilot Plus PC is a superset of an AI PC, these things, I guess, can coexist. I mean, they'll all be AI PCs. Some of them will have better or different capabilities. Copilot Plus PCs right now are limited to the Snapdragon chipsets that were just announced or just starting to release or whatever. But AMD and Intel have both said, look, we will have Copilot Plus PCs sometime this year. And then this past week, we had Computex in Taiwan, and Nvidia, AMD, and Intel all announced their products that will meet this specification and will, in some vague way, someday in the future, we don't know when, get those capabilities, right? Because the Copilot Plus stuff is not coming to everybody who has Windows 11. You don't just get it. And you don't even get it if you have the proper hardware. You can't, it comes on a new PC. That's the only way you're going to get it. So that's a discussion. And actually we will have that discussion, but maybe first we could just go through what was just announced, right? So we know that the Qualcomm Snapdragon X processors, Plus and Elite, have an NPU that I want to say, it's 45 TOPS, right? Isn't that the speed? Mm-hmm. Which is above the 40 TOPS minimum to qualify for that Copilot Plus status. Actually, I don't think I wrote about this. We got to talk about Stevie. I'm going to add this.
Stevie Batish, my favorite presenter.
We're going to talk about Stevie. Because as always,
your Stevie Batish mentions in the piece on orchestration.
Oh, it is good. Okay, good. I want to make sure that's in there because I don't want.
Because if you didn't know, I actually read your stuff.
Oh, good. Yeah. So and if you didn't know, I read my stuff, but my brain is mush.
Yeah.
So I don't remember anything. All right, good. Yeah, I did. You're right. I'm sorry. So 40 TOPS is the minimum, kind of like Polo is the minimum at certain hotels. And Nvidia, AMD, and Intel have all announced, I'm going to call them chipsets for lack of a better term, kind of processors or GPUs, whatever they are, NPUs really, that meet that specification, right? So in Nvidia's case, they are going to be made available through add-on video cards, some of which are humongous, right? And target.
Yeah, and I wonder if I don't already own one.
Well, here's what's interesting. It would be worth looking into this because if I'm not mistaken, these things actually have an NPU on them. So even though there's a GPU that probably gets 400, 500, whatever tops, I believe there's also an NPU that gets, whatever the number is, 40 to 50 tops, just to get in so they can, PC makers can ship laptops and desktop computers that will meet this specification. I know. And we're going to talk about this. This is
process it on the GPU where it'll actually work.
Yeah. Well, this is the Stevie thing. We're going to get to this. So Stevie explains the why of this. But AMD has two new chipsets coming out for laptops and desktop PCs, respectively. They'll both have 50 TOPS NPUs. I think it was last week or the week before I talked about how Microsoft managed to make everybody upset with their Copilot Plus announcement.
It's kind of impressive, really.
Yeah. The one company we didn't really hear from was AMD. Like they were kind of quiet on this, right? They were like, okay, what? And I think we learned why, because they got a guy from Microsoft to come out on stage and say, literally, you guys have exceeded our spec. You're the only ones. And they're not the only ones, but technically 50 TOPS is higher than 48 TOPS, which is Intel, which is higher than 45 TOPS, which is Snapdragon. So they're within a single digit percentage of being whatever, but they actually got Microsoft to come out and say, like, you guys are the, you're the best. I think it's an apology I really think that's why, right? I mean, you kind of know it's why. Intel, we already knew Lunar Lake was coming. They kind of announced it during the Snapdragon event because they were upset. That will deliver 48 TOPS off the NPU. Honestly, though, that's not the most interesting thing about this chip. Like we knew that was coming. There's also an Arrow Lake chipset for desktop PCs, which they provided very little information about, but we're going to call that like a Meteor Lake class CPUs family for desktop PCs. They're going to announce that later in the year, more formally. But this thing has a brand new GPU, which with dramatic improvements over the previous gen, which you may recall is that new Arc graphics, a dramatic improvement of the one that came before it. So in 2 generations, they've kind of gone off the top, blown away the GPU stuff. Kind of really interesting there. They got rid of hyper threading in these chips. There's a much bigger emphasis these days on single threaded performance because most people on laptops are kind of doing one thing. And that's where that shines. Tablets, obviously. But as far as, computers go, that's actually the mainstream. We don't expect that to be the case with Arrow Lake, but I guess we'll see how that goes. And a simplified design. I guess Meteor Lake was kind of a radical design change. This one, they've kind of simplified it. And the normal CPU improvements, 1.2, 1.3x, but GPU and NPU are orders, not orders of magnitude. They're single to double digit X improvements, right? Their previous NPU, I want to say, was 11 TOPS, I believe. It's now 48. That's a big deal. And then I think it's
5 times, right? Or 4 times. Like it's a lot.
Big deal. Yeah. So these are big changes. And it took them 20 years, but apparently Intel has now heard the term performance per watt. And so they're starting to talk, I know, they're starting to talk that stuff up as well. And that also is a big factor in the Stevie Batish talk, which we'll mention. In fact, we'll probably spend more time talking about it than he did giving the talk. It was only 11 minutes long.
But that's a very Batish thing. He's done that before.
Yeah. Just shows up, lays down the law,
and you're all staring there like, we need to think about this.
Given how well, the interesting thing about him is, given how well that last speech was, the one from Bill 2024, 2023,
right?
This one is not quite as eloquent, if that makes any sense. But everything he said planned out 100%. It makes sense to pay attention to what he's talking about. And he gives a nice defense, if you will, of the NPU, which again, we'll get to. Qualcomm has nothing new to announce this week. So of course they made an announcement because they don't want to get left behind. Look at us, we're still here. And so they've said, look, we're going to put Snapdragon CPUs in every PC form factor there is. And there were no details, but they had a picture of an all-in-one PC, a tablet, the different laptops, et cetera. So that's good news. And I think for those people who are interested in possibly buying like a Snapdragon motherboard and, building their own PC, there's no reason that can't happen. It's just that we're not going to really see that plug and play thing where you get like a CPU socket, choose your own. You know, it's going to have to be a fairly
Maybe SOC, yeah,
a fairly standardized thing. Yep, yep. Oh, I should say I forgot that one of the more interesting things about Lunar Lake, in addition to the things I said, they're putting the memory on the chip, just like ARM chips do, right?
Yeah.
Now this is good and bad. There's some confusion about performance. It's not actually like faster to do that per se, but it is more energy efficient because the distance between the processor and the RAM is shorter. So it doesn't use as much energy making that interchange, I guess, is how they described it.
Yeah, big question the math on that one, but okay.
Yeah. Yep. Distance. So yeah, anyway, that's the point. And I don't know, I am not a hardware expert. I don't know if this precludes add-on RAM, but I think it might. I think we might be getting into a situation where we've seen, actually the industry's been kind of working toward this, where you buy a laptop, it has whatever RAM it has, and you're kind of stuck with that. And
this is the Air model, which Ultrabooks generally have followed.
Yeah. So as this right to repair thing has evolved, we've seen the ability to easily remove the back of the computer, the bottom, I guess, the laptop. You can replace the battery. There's M2 cards for things like the storage, obviously SSD, Wi-Fi is like that oftentimes, and it's all user serviceable. But the one thing that it typically isn't is the RAM. It's usually soldered on. Sometimes you'll see soldered on plus 1 or 2 DIMM slots, but that's actually increasingly rare. And I'm not saying this is why, but maybe we've been moving toward this day for a while now. It's kind of hard to say. But
I just don't think most people upgrade their machines. Once you get it, you get it. You use it till you're done with it.
Yep. And I don't know.
And you're saving cost and space. Like there's a lot of case to be made for this. I mean, it used to be that the chips were so expensive to manufacture. You wanted them all adjustable so that you had choices there and you only had to make one. These days, of the way fabs are working, it makes perfect sense to have a processor with 3 different memory options, and you just all on one sock.
Yeah, no, this is definitely the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. So the problem is, like today we have options, obviously chips, and you can get different things, different CPU sets and so forth. So are we going to move to a world where this is the norm and maybe the only thing that happens in that space? I mean, we'll always have the beefier chips and desktop chips and all that, but I don't know. I just don't know. So we'll see. I don't believe AMD is doing anything like that, but Qualcomm is, of course, right?
But I do appreciate if there's 3 different companies, 3 different chipsets coming out, they're going to grab every market opportunity they have, and one of them is going to make a mini ATX board.
Yeah,
so you plug it into whatever chassis you want.
Yeah. So when you go to buy in the future, perhaps let's just imagine this. So you buy an Intel processor today, get a motherboard of whatever kind, you buy your RAM and storage. Like maybe in the future, what you're buying is that CPU, which is really a SoC with the RAM, and that's the configuration. It's like this CPU, GPU, NPU plus 16, 32, or 64 gigs of RAM, or whatever the configurations are. Like you might have to do it at purchase time, right?
Yeah, you might do it at purchase time, and it may be integrated into the motherboard entirely, or it might just be a big plate that you put down. But then the motherboard is just the bus, the additional I/O devices, and a couple, 3 or 4 M3s.
Yep. Yeah. So sounds good to me. Well, I should say, with the understanding that some people, especially people listening to the show, are probably a little nervous about this, which is understandable. We'll talk a little bit about framework coming up, but I do like the modularity thing. I do like the repair upgrade thing. I think, like most people, I have made purchases with the eye toward, well, if I want to later, in this case, I could increase the RAM, storage, whatever, and then never do. Right? And I think that's typical.
You like that option. I've also had the experience of somebody, trying to work on a machine that's 4 years old, and the pins are all brittle now. So when you do go to try and change anything, it never works again.
Yeah, I had cars that worked that way. It was the dirt and oil on the engine that was holding it together.
It was actually holding it together.
And when you steam cleaned it, it just exploded out onto the ground like in a giant liquid pile. Which is in many ways a vivid description of an Intel CPU. So anyhow, I've talked to Richard about this on and off. I've been really thinking about orchestration, right? Because Stevie brought it up last year. This was a core part of his talk. This notion that of the 3 app structures that he talked about, AI beside Copilots, AI inside, new apps like Designer, and Clipchamp. And then AI outside, where an AI, the way he described it, an AI was going to orchestrate your request. In other words, instead of commanding like we do today, where we tell the computer to do something, and with AI we ask, right? We say we create a prompt and we say, hey, I would like to do this thing, and the AI will be intelligent enough, in his words, to orchestrate your request to the tasks that will do the thing that you want and give you the thing that you want in the most efficient and performant way imaginable, right? And that's very, very interesting to me. But if you think about how AI has been implemented in Windows, that does not exist. And it doesn't seem to exist with Copilot Plus PCs. And it doesn't seem to exist with the programmatic interfaces that Microsoft is giving to developers, right?
Yes.
And what I mean by that is we have these computers that are evolving. These computers exist in a market that is very diverse, right? You could have a computer that has weird combinations of CPU, GPU, NPU, RAM, storage, all different kind of video, video displays, whatever it is. And Windows is a kind of orchestrator. You run an app, and I think app makers like Adobe or with creative apps would say, if you have a GPU, we're going to hit that GPU and use that because it's going to make this more efficient. Now they have to figure out the NPU as well. But I feel like this is the type of thing that the orchestrator at Windows in this case should kind of handle, right? But if you look at everything pre-24H2, with the exception of Windows Studio Effects, all of those things ran in software. They don't hit the GPU at all. They don't hit an NPU if you have one. No one does, but they don't if you do. Some of them do things that run against the cloud, right? And the feeling was heading into this build from last month that maybe now we're going to see the first steps to those things becoming more sophisticated. But what they announced was different stuff, right? So it's possible that background blur in Paint or background replacement in photos or whatever other little AI features we can think of will be made more efficient and look to see what you have on your system and use the appropriate chip. But I could be missing something. I'm not, not perfect here, but it seems like what Microsoft decided was we're going to build this next generation of AI improvements to run on the NPU exclusively. And that's what's kind of interesting about it. So
they've implied that, but I don't see any evidence of it.
Yeah. Other than, that's the Steve Batish talk, right? That the way he describes it. So people it's a legitimate complaint or concern, right? I have an Nvidia GPU. I spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars on this thing.
Thousands.
It delivers, thousands. 476 TOPS, right? Why can't I do your goofy little AI feature? I have more than enough performance, And this is the thing that it's worth watching this Stevie talk, because this is not a topic I don't think I understood very well, which is that an NPU is not just more efficient at generative AI tasks than a GPU. It also offers better performance, and it's big. So one of the demos he gave, he was comparing an Intel Core i7 CPU against a system with an Nvidia RTX 3080 GPU with a 4-watt NPU at generating faces, just image generation.
Mm-hmm.
The NPU was 32 times as fast as the CPU. And forget about efficient. I'm just saying, just pure performance. 32 times as fast. He didn't give a number for the GPU, but based on the graphic, it was about 15 or 16 times as fast. But when you factor in the efficiency angle, a 4-watt, he called it a sub 4-watt NPU, but we'll call it 4-watt NPU. To get that same level of performance with a Core i7, you would need 20 of them.
Wow.
And they would consume 440 watts of power versus 4. And that GPU could do it. You don't need 2 of them. One would do it, but you're looking at 320 watts of power, right? And so,
you know what? The customer couldn't give a crap.
Well, this came up. We were talking about recall briefly before the show. So this is the phrase, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. I think for this first gen, what they're shooting for is that kind of sweet spot in the middle of the market. So it's mainstream PCs, which are laptops, premium laptops, which are more profitable. They have higher margins, right? So in other words, Microsoft obviously is trying to help it and the industry grow PC sales in the wake of a historic lull. And they're trying to hit that part of the market where it can have the most impact for everybody. Over time, these capabilities will come to other PCs, right? I've really looked for the nuance in this. I'm trying to find the one place where it says otherwise, but my understanding is as of today, like for the time being, it will only come to new PCs, right? If you have an existing Nvidia something processor that is a killer, it's not clear that you will get the Copilot Plus capabilities, even though it could run, and even though no one cares about the energy consumption, et cetera. If you think back to Windows Studio Effects, which was the one thing that ran on which today is the only thing that runs on the NPU. The benefit of that thing, because that's not generative. Well, it is generative AI, but it's also generative AI that runs continuously. Like we've connected to a call.
Right.
We're talking over some period, hours in our case, but most calls 30, 60 minutes, I would hope. And it's blurring the background or it's doing whatever. And it's doing it without, not literally, but it's not impacting the battery. There's some tiny 0.00 something percent, whatever it is, but
winding out the fan on your laptop.
The magic of the MPU is that it does these things so efficiently that it doesn't impact the battery life, right? Yeah. And so you get that same effect with like hardware accelerated graphics with a dedicated GPU, but it's even better because the performance and efficiency are astronomically higher. So if you were to think to the task that, Recall is an obvious example. Recall is a solution for Copilot Plus PCs that uses some unknown number. Microsoft hasn't said, but it is multiple models that are going to be built into those PCs. There will be 40 or more of them on those PCs, but it's using some, let's call it dozens of them. They're all running simultaneously, and it's doing all its stuff, like whatever those things are, whatever the capabilities. It's doing region detection and OCR and all this stuff. And the idea is everyone's freaking about the privacy stuff, and we'll get to that. But the point of this is that it does all those things, builds the vector database, puts it in a secure enclave, like all that stuff, without impacting the battery life or the performance of the system. And the demo that he did, which was a little over the tops, get it? Was he took you could see exactly which model it was. It was the mid-level Snapdragon X processor, so it wasn't the highest end version. And he pegged that thing he hit every single model on the PC at once, doing different things, just running again and again and again, facial recognition, all the stuff. And the GPU was just flatlining on the bottom. And he said, and now I will play a game because because the GPU is not, and I can do that while I'm doing all this other stuff. And that's kind of the point of it. Will things change? Yes. I mean, one of the big questions, frankly, about Copilot PC is like, how do you reconcile what this thing is, right? We've talked about this a little bit. We've had Media Center Edition, right? We have this notion today in Windows 11 where you buy like a computer that has Windows 11 Pro, and one of those features that you get with that is like BitLocker, disk encryption, the management console, and that's great. But there are some features that require specific hardware. So even though the system supports it, you can't use Windows Hello facial recognition unless you have a camera built into the system, right? But that has to exist.
Yeah, that's a particular kind of sensor. What's annoying us here is that they are deciding, for whatever reason they want to contrive, that they're not going to use our perfectly capable GPUs for this stuff.
Yeah, I think it will happen.
Yeah,
and I think it's being done to drive the industry forward and get some sales going. And I know that bothers some people. The one in all my complaining about Microsoft, the one thing I try to remind myself of is, look, they're a business. They're trying. But
it bothers me when a TF goes out to defend that, where it's like, listen, we're going to push the MPU first because you don't want your GPU and your laptop doing this. But if you got a desktop, knock yourself out.
I agree. I 100%. And that's why I frame this conversation in the context of orchestration. Because I think that specifically targeting the MPU is in some ways buying them time. That they're doing this now, not just to do what I described, which is help the industry, but it's just easier. We have this thing, we're going to require it. It's going to make people buy new computers. We'll just target this. Thus, this kind of artificial separation we've created between like the haves and have-nots will hopefully drive some PC sales. But the thing is, like a sophisticated orchestrator should be able to look at whatever the task is and then run the most efficient one that you have. But maybe you don't have that NPU. Maybe you do have that GPU. So maybe use that instead. Like it's weird to me that it's not that sophisticated.
No, or you're doing 3 workloads and it's like, hey, I'll put 2 of them on the NPU and 1 of them on the GPU because it's not doing anything right now. Oh, you decided to fire up World of Warcraft. Okay, I'll pull it back off of the GPU.
So, right. And exactly. Thank you. Exactly. Like what the example that Stevie gave where he's like, now I can play a game. Someone was saying, well, yeah, but the CPU was, getting pegged. Right. That's how Windows works. When you run another task, it has, memory and CPU resource utilization capabilities. You don't set that yourself. It just does it. Right. Yeah. So it will give less RAM and less CPU to the AI task, and it will let you run the game. Like the point was the game would run. Like it may run at 6 frames per second. I have no idea.
Yeah, and I remember my old Surface Book where it actually had 2 GPUs in it.
Yeah.
And, it depended on which one it would use, depending on the kind of work.
Tell me,
the OS can own that problem. Yep. From a dev perspective, there are APIs that are hardware savvy, right? The CUDA API was for using scalar compute against a GPU. Like, tell me why that wouldn't work just as well in the MP.
So it would, but here's the thing. I tell me if I've already used this example, but back in the day, I think you, Richard, have used the example of like, there was a day when Microsoft pulled networking into Windows and everyone freaked out. What are you doing? We sell networking, That's the type of thing where you say, hey, look, this needs to be a base part of the operating system. WordPerfect, their big claim to fame in the late 80s, early 90s was they had 4 floppy disks full of just printer drivers. That was like their value add. Like we support every single printer. And Microsoft stands, and look, there's some anti-competitive stuff to it, but realistically, this should be a feature of the platform. No, another app maker could show up with a new word processor and would instantly support every printer maker because it's built into Windows, right?
Yeah, because they understand that device context.
So I think we're at the point now where, there are a million different ways to do a million different things. And I think what Microsoft wants to do is what I just described, but for AI, that this, and again, it's like it's an orchestrator, right? It's a system level service that will look at what you're doing and intelligently apply the workloads to whatever processors make the most sense. I think that's where it's headed. That's my,
the wrestling match is going to be the sysadmin with 5,000 desktops doing his usual hardware rotation. So he's turning over 20% of them a year. And the NPU costs more. It's like, am I going to pay a $300 or $500 premium for this machine because we might need this NPU?
Well, which is, by the way, part of the, not beauty, but part of the nuance of what's happening now, and part of the conversation around recall, which is, for now, this stuff is only available in a tiny, tiny subset of computers.
Yes.
Not one of which has shipped yet, by the way.
No.
It will. Some of these features will be available only in preview when that does happen, and it will grow over time, right? And so, however it happens, sometime this fall, we're going to see PCs based on AMD, Intel, and Nvidia chipsets that meet the Copilot Plus PC spec.
Yeah.
Will they be Copilot Plus PCs? This is where it gets weird because not all of them, but at least 2 of them have used language that says these features are coming later, which is something Microsoft would never happen, that they would never deliver these via a software update. But they have said explicitly that is how this will happen. So someday, a year from now, 2 years from now, we're going to have we'll have a growing body of these things. But I mean, look, in our wildest dreams, how many Snapdragon X processor based laptops are going to ship this year to actual customers? Several million,
maybe,
right? Maybe.
Yeah. How many they got?
Do you think it's Microsoft's intent that everybody be using one in 5 years? Or is it just
I don't know
a thing? I mean, is it something that you want to be the new platform?
So this is the question. I think the way that these things happen is you do it this way in a measured way. We're not going to give this to everybody, right? We can't. It wouldn't, in many cases, it would result in a worse experience. Someone like my wife, who was a normal, smart person, but a normal person, gets some upgrade to Windows, and she's like, "How come my battery life is 50% of what it used to be? Or how come, like when I run Word, it stutters?" It's like, "Oh, you're running 40 miles in the background off your CPU. That's why." You don't do that to those people, but there's also this life cycle where we live in a world in which Microsoft has started raising the hardware bar on new versions of Windows, right? That seemed arbitrary with Windows 11 and was, but in this case, this 40 TOPS thing was a thing they arrived at because this is where this stuff actually starts to make sense. So, a year from now, 10 million or something. 2 years from now, maybe it's 25, 50, whatever it is. Intel alone will dramatically expand the deployment or the availability of these systems. The question's going to be, at what point in time do those computers get these capabilities? Because based on
it'll become a part of the base chipset, just like a GPU has. Like you can't buy a machine that doesn't have some form of GPU.
No, I meant the software. In other words, so you buy like a new Intel Core Ultra 2 based laptop in December. It's got 32 gigs of RAM, plenty of storage. It's an awesome NPU, and you install it. It comes with Windows 11 24H2. My understanding is you're not going to have any of the Copilot Plus stuff then. You will eventually get it, but you're not going to have it from day one. It doesn't come in the box. And I don't know what it looks like to install 40 models on a computer, but I think it's going to take a little while. There's that's part of it.
There's Windows Update for that. It'll just happen in the background.
So I guess.
So anyway,
my question is really: is it like the Evo PC? Is it a marketing umbrella? Yes. Okay.
I'm saying that is the question. So this is something. Look. You guys know me well enough. This is what I obsess over, right? So this is like, what is this thing? And I think we talked about this a little bit last week because yes, we have Intel, which wants to put stickers on PCs and they pay PC makers for that. And that's why you see that crap. You get Microsoft that's trying to establish their own kind of standard and they're trying to drive the industry forward for their own reasons, which are, mostly good, would benefit most of their partners. I think I pointed out last week, didn't I? The number of times these guys said AI PC versus Copilot PC and how they were. Did this come up last week or not? I don't remember, but Intel is paying them more money than Microsoft is. So you hear AI PC a lot more than you hear Copilot Plus PC, right?
Yeah. And I wonder if the term's going to die. Just, because it feels like a marketing term to me anyway.
Yeah. My guess, my guess is, part of this is to sell stickers and part of it is to, they're all jockeying for position. Listen, whatever you think.
I know how Microsoft sells a ton of these machines in no time. Cut the price of Copilot in half if you're running on a Copilot Plus machine.
Yes, like Google is,
and it's justifiable because you're shifting the workload to the endpoint rather than running it in the cloud.
Yes, in fact, you should maybe give us a stipend every month. It's like we're feeding AI back into the ecosystem or something. Anyhow, to answer Leo's question, right now I think these things are kind of in flux. I think that the Copilot Plus capabilities become part of more and more PCs over time, then just become part of Windows. Just like Media Center was its standalone SKU, but now it's part of Windows, or it became part of Windows and then disappeared.
So
or
it's not the future of Windows.
PC.
It's just a kind of Windows, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it's short term, it's a kind of Windows. Long term, it is the future, right?
Okay.
I mean, at some point, it's going to be 5 years in the future, and we will have, no matter where we got it, a computer with an NPU that can handle this stuff. And we'll just have that. This will be happening. Like right now.
Not today, but at some point, it makes no sense to build a die that doesn't have an NPU in it anymore. That makes any sense to not have RAM or multiple cores.
Yeah, I questioned Intel earlier this year shipping like 14th gen core chips when they had just done the Ultra. It's like, could you just move it along? But
two different pipelines. You can't. They were a certain level of evolution.
Yep. So anyway, that's where we're at. So what's the date? It's the 5th. So in the less than 2 weeks, we're going to get the first Copilot Plus PCs, which are Snapdragon based.
You still on that list?
We'll see. I mean, I still have my pre-order in. I mean, I'm expecting to get. I mean, I think HP is going to send me one here, and Lenovo has done that for me in the past as well. So, but I'm hoping to have at least 3 of them by the end of the month. But you don't have to wait for me. I mean, everyone's going to review these things, right? Sure. So people will tell you the efficiency, the battery life, the performance, the fan noise. We're gonna learn this real quick. But there's more to it than this, right? So there's there's the Copilot Plus capabilities, of which Recall is the most infamous, and maybe they've described it as kind of their marquee feature. Everyone's freaking out about this thing, which is completely understandable. When I was sitting in the audience, as soon as he started talking, I was like, oh man, here we go. People aren't going to like this. It felt a little like we're not reading the room here.
Steve was very scathing.
Everyone trusts Microsoft. Microsoft has never screwed up anything in Windows 11. So, I mean, obviously you're all going to embrace this. And look, I get it. Like I said, I think last week, a big portion of my audience is still very anti-AI, which I find confusing, but this is the world, and they're going to look at this and say, I don't want this. And you'll see, this is what's going to cause me to move to Linux. And it's like, maybe, but by the time you get it, By the time it's forced on you, is the way I would say it. The problems will have been fixed, right? It will be opt-in. It will be something you can remove. It will be it will be better. It may, by that point, be something you actually do want, because I describe recall to my wife, who again, smart, but not technical. And immediately she's like, I need this. I need this right now. I would use this all the time. I'm like, I know. And this is, I think, mainstream users, a lot of them, we in our little bubble, we're technical. We know too much. We have our ideals, and we're like, oh my God, this is a security and privacy nightmare, blah, 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 whatever. And I think, normal people either will or will not want it. But those who do are like, yeah, I often stand in front of the refrigerator with the door open, and I can't remember why I'm here. And and this is the kind of problem it's trying to solve on computers, right? Look, there's a lot that goes into it, but it's just to answer the complaints in kind of a non-ranty way. I'll just say, Copilot Plus PCs have specific hardware, including Pluton security chipsets that are not on most computers today. They require an advanced form of Windows Hello biometric authentication that will provide an additional layer of security protection that's not available on other PCs. There's a bunch of security defaults that will be enabled that are available in Windows 11, but not by default today. And you will not get recall unless you sign in with a Microsoft account, which requires you to use Windows Hello, which in this case requires you to use advanced Windows Hello, not just regular Windows Hello. That means your disk will be encrypted as soon as you sign in for the first time, et cetera, et cetera. So there's this whole set of security stuff built into this system that the people kind of hacking it to run a normal, they're like, look, I can run recall without any of the models on the CPU. Yeah, you can, but that's not what that computer is going to look like. So the thing you made, which is inherently insecure,
there's not going to be a debate on this in the IT space at all.
Yeah,
you got to spend a little time being an administrator dealing with a sexual harassment complaint.
Yeah,
and you've got to use the tools to dig through email, which you can do to find those harassing emails. And you tell him, and you've got to demonstrate
this is
categorically that this person did this harassment.
So in other words, will your business surveil you using this or similar technologies for this reason or others, right? Make sure you're not giving away secrets. Make sure you're not,
They will, and they are, and they're required to.
That's exactly.
Don't be crazy, right?
Yeah, it's
as an administrator, this is part of your liability of the company.
But this is
been harassed.
When I use the term faux outrage, what I mean by that is it's like outrage over something that doesn't impact you. It's like my definition of a hipster is a person who is nostalgic for a past they did not experience, right? Like we're getting upset about something that will not impact you this year, will almost certainly not impact you within 3 or 5 years even. If and when it does, because Microsoft has a lot of problems. I feel like I'm leading the charge on that one, but they also do respond to feedback like this. And when the whole world freaks out on this, they'll make changes, they'll make adjustments. Look, part
of me, I wondered if it was intentional. Let's get it out there, read the room.
Oof, I really would have pushed the security privacy stuff a lot harder than they did, frankly. They almost had this wide-eyed disbelieving, like Google does this. You think about Google as like this giant privacy sucking thing, and they're like, as you know, nobody loves your privacy more than Google. And you're like, I'm sorry, are we talking about the same company here?
What?
So I think Microsoft is suffering from that a bit. I've spent the last 2-3 years bitching and moaning about all the certification stuff. And, could this turn into that kind of a thing? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, is it now? We don't know that. Organizations that don't want to use this can flip it off. You'll never see it. And I mean, literally flip it off. But they can turn it off. Sorry. And they don't, you don't have to.
I got to tell you from a litigation point of view, to have a lawyer stand in front of you and say, you turn that feature off and it could have protected your company.
Yes. Right. Yep.
Well, but also you turn it on and it's got records of all those emails you may not want to have.
I mean, that's
send those emails through the business account.
This is a tough one because the people who will benefit from this, which I will just describe as kind of mainstream users, right? Although mainstream users who somehow ended up with a Snapdragon PC, it's kind of a weird cross cycle, like cross section, right? But whatever, short term, it's going to be a small market. They're like, yep, they see what it is. Like, yep, I'm leaving this thing on. I want this to work. They're doing the thing. The place where this falls apart to me is not with the issues other people are raising, but rather that person isn't technical enough and frankly doesn't have the initiative to go in and say, look, when I'm in PayPal or whatever, I don't want you recording that. Or when I'm visiting my favorite porn site or whatever it is, I don't want you recording that.
Right.
And I just think people are too lazy and don't care enough, for lack of a better term, maybe a little too trusting when it comes to technology.
Yeah.
So the very audience that recall will help the most, although honestly, I think it will help all of us if we used it properly, is the market it will hurt, right? Like we know to use, Richard has a physical security key for his passwords. We talk about 2FA and passkeys and all this stuff. And normal people are like, ABC 123,
whatever.
And this is, I don't know how we fix that problem.
No, dude, I had a neighbor show me his phone, showing his email account had been exploited. There were mails being sent in his name. And I'm like, you need to change your passwords. No, I'm not changing my password.
I have a friend.
This doesn't hurt me. Whatever.
I have a friend who he always comes to me for technical stuff, obviously. And he pulls out this USB key and he says, everything, I don't put anything online. Like everything's here. I don't use the cloud. All my passwords, my data, my bank information, blah, blah, blah. And I thought he was joking. I just started laughing. I was like, oh, wait, I'm sorry. Are you serious? And then thinking through like what kind of a person would be like this, I said, well, I mean, I hope you have at least two of them with one of them in a safety deposit box. And he goes, yeah, that's exactly what I do. And I'm like, you might want to wake up because stagecoaches are gone, and we live in the 21st century. And seriously, what are you doing? Like there are secure ways to do what you want to do without having to. And then I said, is that thing encrypted? And he's like, what does that mean? I'm like, you're carrying around an unencrypted, easily losable thumb drive.
Entire collection of all your important data.
It's like I might have to.
At least in the case of stuff like recall, the encryption is not an option. Like you don't get to use it if you don't have all the security features.
Yeah, and right, and there you go. So if you have Windows 11 Home, you actually can't encrypt that thing. You can't. You can use it if it's encrypted, but you can't actually encrypt it. Mm-hmm. And this is a good example of that divide I'm talking about. The good and the bad of a feature like this, which is very technical and super useful if it works right. We always say that about AI, if it works right, this is always the thing. But the very people, like I said, who I think could use it the most, are the ones who will not understand it very well.
But by the time this thing becomes mainstream, it'll be off by default. That's kind of my point, right? Even that day, talking to the guy who designed this feature, I raised a couple things. It doesn't survive a reset. You can't sync it to the cloud and access your history on every one of your computers. Which I know the privacy guys are like, Paul, what are you doing? You're making the problem exponentially worse. But realistically, if you use multiple PCs, you don't want just the history from that PC. You work in multiple places. You want to bring in your whole body of history, and that's just not an option.
And it's not there. It will be, right? I'm not going to ever come up with. No, he told me it would be. Like he said, look, we have to ship something for 1.0. I mean, we know, this will get better over time. The part he didn't talk about, because we didn't really talk about this to begin with, was, Microsoft's customers are going to provide feedback. I don't know if you've been paying attention, but the feedback to this one has been decidedly one-sided. And
by a whole bunch of people who've never used it.
Right. Or people have used it, but then they will say, well, I had to hack it onto this computer. It's like, if someone had full administrative control to your computer, it's like, right. Which is,
but that happens all the time. That's Trojan Stealer.
The baseline for any vulnerability. I mean, like,
how do you think people get ransomware? People get into your computer. That's how it happens. Right. And having BitLocker does nothing because it's decrypted as soon as they're in. And by the way, UAC is completely not going to prevent them from escalating. So we see this all the time. If Windows were secure, we wouldn't have a ransomware problem.
If Windows, if Windows was ... I could write 1,000 words right now.
But you're creating now a database of everything you've ever done.
No, hold on a second. But you're forgetting. But not easily. No, you're forgetting the most important part. None of that's true. These are different computers. They're secured not completely differently. They're secure. They're better secured than the PCs you're referring to right now. So that's part of this.
So you're saying Pluton and better Windows Hello is going to eliminate Trojans and malware and ransomware?
I'm not making any claim like that.
Because that'll be very interesting if Microsoft
the baseline we don't know is what I'm saying. Everyone's like, this will happen. No, but you don't know that. So we will see. I think putting this out in a very limited fashion at first, actually, in this case, makes sense. This is something I would normally rail against. I think this is the kind of feature where they really need to, see how this goes, right? And look, Microsoft doesn't have their hands over the ears. They're paying attention to this stuff. They already know all the complaints. No one is going to come up with something like, oh, I never thought of that. I mean, like they know this better than anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what they do. Has Microsoft proven themselves to be a trustworthy partner in this journey? I'm going to leave that one up to you guys. I have my issues, right? And that's a concern. Absolutely. This is a company, they just did it on this new computer I'm using right now. Folder backup? No. Folder backup? No. Folder backup? No. And then I deleted some of the desktop. It says, hey, when you delete from OneDrive, are you kidding me? Like, are you kidding me? So we'll see. We'll see. There's definitely a high bar here for security. And
I almost
privacy.
wonder if it's another version of Windows X.
Yeah, like a containerized.
Make the ARM version work that they can simply put those constraints in place.
That could be.
Yeah.
I do find it very interesting how vague it is when AMD, Intel, Nvidia compliant PCs become Copilot Plus PCs. You can't find, well, maybe you can. If you do, show it to me. A sentence somewhere where some PC maker says, when these things ship on whatever date, they will have all the Copilot Plus PC capabilities. I don't believe that's the case. Just based on what they've communicated.
Yeah, we don't know. They have not made that clear.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, people, I can predict that the malware will target this because it's so juicy of a target. Great. Well, you'll have an audience of 13, and
doesn't make it all that juicy a target.
We'll see how juicy that is. Yeah. I think look, I'm just trying to bring some rationality to this. I am not pretending I have the answers. I'm not going to refute anything that Steve did or didn't say. That's not really the point. It's just that the people who are kind of hacking into this and proving that certain things happen are not proving anything, because that's not what those PCs are. Yeah. And we'll see. So we'll see. Here's a legit complaint. Microsoft explicitly said this would be an opt-in feature. Mm-hmm. And then, and when do we do that? It's, well, when you set up Windows, it's a new computer, you turn it on, you set up, you type in your account information, whatever. And that sounds good. We'll see what the warning looks like. But they showed, someone got a hold of the screen where that occurs. And what it looks like is it's just on, and you can go into settings later and turn it off. And I got to tell you, from vast experience, no one is ever going to either do or figure that out. So that needs to change, right? This should be a big red button, and when you click it, should be a giant disclaimer, right?
At the security level that thing needs to be at, there's going to be enough hoops that a lot of people simply opt out because they're not going to jump through the hoops.
Well, it's on by default right now. What hoops do they have to jump through to use it?
We'll see. It shouldn't be. They said it wouldn't be. So
it's on by default. It's just on.
Well, it's where there's no PC that has this. Well, you know what I mean? Like I know what you're saying. I mean,
you're saying it's not going to be on all Copilot Plus PCs.
I'm not saying that at all. See, that's the thing. I see a picture of something. We don't know. We don't have these PCs. Right. If it is as described and not what Microsoft said, by the way, multiple times that first day, we have a problem, right? And that's a problem very much like the problem I've been talking about with OneDrive or Edge, which is very predacious. And you could say this is kind of standard operating procedure for Microsoft with Windows 11. I feel like the privacy security bar is so high on this feature, they cannot take this slapdash approach to forcing it on people.
That would argue
whatever their strategy is
in favor of the faux outrage is to convince them, like, you better be right.
I wouldn't be surprised if they.
I'm saying the outrage is faux, and you haven't done anything to reassure me that it is. It is really legit.
What's the legit?
Faux if it doesn't happen, or
no, it's outrage over something you shouldn't be outraged over. It's like you make an assumption at the beginning of a sentence that's wrong, and it just negates the rest of it. I don't mean you, Leo.
I'm just curious. What's the wrong assumption?
When you say, I got this to run on non-compliant PC and ...
This is a thought experiment without having it run on anything.
Okay.
So you're saying that the perimeter security is going to be so good that there's no chance of this unencrypted ball being
keep saying I would never speak that definitively. What I'm saying is that the very specific claims that people have made, security researchers, hackers, whatever they are all moot because you're not running that on a Copilot Plus PC. Now, when we do,
you don't have to make a claim. I'm just saying you have an unencrypted, once you log in, ball of data that's everything you ever done.
Once you log, well, once you log in was this the first part of the problem. How did you log in? What do you mean? This thing has an advanced form of biometrics control to make sure it's only you that logs in.
Which is why we never have any ransomware problems with people downloading malware while they're logged in.
Look, we have problems with car crashes too. It doesn't mean that the majority of cars crash. I mean, like, what do you mean? Ransomware is not something that's taken us down as an industry.
Okay.
I didn't not get on the podcast today because I have ransomware.
We have no issue. Then obviously,
no, it's not. That's
going to be fine.
No, don't put words in it. You're making it sound like I'm saying something definitive. I don't mean literally none. I mean, it's not like this 90% thing where it's destroyed everything. We can't even get work done. It's not like that.
So we should not worry until it comes
I am not
out.
saying that at all. I'm saying we should see what it actually is. And I think it's important. This feedback is good because I do think that Microsoft is going to take it to heart. And I think it is inexcusable that they went out live with this information without being much clearer about how they plan to secure.
It felt like there was a lot of hand waving, like, well, you don't have to worry about it. It's got Pluton, it's got BitLocker. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And I don't think that
I'm not defending Microsoft. It's just no way. I'm defending just common sense.
We don't have to worry about it till there are Copilot Plus PCs in a week or 2 weeks, I guess.
Okay. I guess. But like I said, how many by the end of the year? There are 1.5 billion Windows PCs in the world. If there are 10 million with this thing and let's say all 10 million of them are using it, what are we talking about here? This is like, what's that one? What is that? Less than 1%?
No, the point is just to alert people that if you're going to get a Copilot Plus PC, you might want to consider disabling this thing that is on by default. That it would be prudent to do so.
Actually, I'm glad you put it that way. I wouldn't have thought of that. I write books and I write what I write, and my job, as I see it, is to kind of help Windows users, right?
Yeah.
And what I want to do is have real information about how well this works or doesn't work, and then be able to advise people accordingly. My point is not this thing is safe. My point is, as described, this thing is not the problem you say it is. And let's see what happens in real life. Also, I think the way they're rolling this out, I mean, think about it just from like a content perspective. Does it even make sense for me to document how recall works? No one's going to be using it. It's like the audience is so tiny. I will because I'm mental that way, but I mean, I don't, what's the market there? It's nothing. And it's something that will grow over time, but it's not just growing with Microsoft not doing anything. It's growing with them improving these features,
but it's not really
addressing the
a
concerns.
defense to say, lawn darts might be dangerous, but because so few people will buy them, we don't have to worry about it.
But that's not the argument. That's only part of the argument. That's the other part of the sentence. The first part is you don't have these lawn darts. Maybe they have foam tips. You don't know.
Okay.
You just said
That's
I
true.
have.
They could
be other lawn darts, and those lawn darts hurt. Thus, these new lawn darts will be horrible.
Right.
That's what these people are saying.
But Microsoft has yet to say anything to make me feel like they have foam tips, is all I'm saying.
Fair enough.
Maybe they will.
And I would just say generally, I mean, should you trust Microsoft? Trust.
We know
is a very
security
strong
is
word.
job one at Microsoft.
Damn, it is. Yes. Not AI. Wait, what? Yeah, you're right. Well, that's what they're saying. So yeah, I mean, look, everything is secure by default again. Yay, I guess we do this once every 20 years now, but we will see. Look, will there be problems with this? Yeah, it's Microsoft. This company is, this part of this company is ridiculous. So we'll see. We'll see. It reminds me a bit of in 20, I guess it's in 23 H2, I think, but in Windows 11 now, you could open the start menu. In fact, I see it right here. There's a little orange dot on my name. I click on it and it says backup your PC. Make sure you always have access to your file. They've added another place they can berate me to do this thing I don't want to do, right? So that's what Microsoft does in Windows 11. I don't like it. And then they, again, I don't know if it's 21st or 23, somewhere in the last couple of months, they've added this icon. They're going to add an icon to the recommended section of the start menu that recommends an app you don't have, right? Whole world collapsed. Everyone went mental. And I'm like, guys, this has been a feature of Windows 10 since day one. It's still there. this is in many ways just a regression. It should have been there in Windows 11. I don't know why they didn't do it. You can turn it off, right click it and say, I don't want this. Easy to turn off. That is in no way as problematic as all those Edge and OneDrive problems I've been complaining about for months and months and months. But that was the thing that set people off. And this one I get, like I said, I was sitting in the audience, I'm like, private, here we go. I'm like, you could just, you could predict instantly what all the arguments would be. And 100%, that's exactly what happened. I get it. I mean, I get it. But I mean, my God, we're going nuts over something that just is not available. Whatever experience you have on your PC does not apply. And yes, it will be on a tiny number of PCs and can be disabled.
Will you leave it on?
I will, because I have to, right? I have to write about it.
And Richard, you'll leave it on.
And it might even be useful.
Oh, see, this is what's really
what if it
interesting
is?
about AI.
That's the thing. Like, what if?
No, of course it'll be useful.
Listen.
No one's denying it'll be useful. Okay. That's not the question.
Well, so this is like an exponentially worse version of the problem Microsoft had with Cortana. I distinctly remember getting an email from someone who said, "Let me get this straight. I ran this stupid app, and it told me it needed access to my emails, my calendar, my whatever." And I'm like, "Yep." He's like, "I'm not doing that." I'm like, "What do you think this software is doing? It's a personal assistant. It has to know your schedule so it can tell you got this thing coming." Like, that's how it works. And so people who look at this and say, "Oh, I don't want AI having all my blah, blah, blah." Like, yeah, if you want to use this functionality, that's how it works. If you don't, just don't use it. That's fine.
Are the companies that told their employees not to use ChatGPT, have they changed their tune? That was the fear with ChatGPT, is it exfiltrate
you get exactly
your information.
You get it out. Microsoft does
Have they backed down? Have they said?
I bet Microsoft does a better job of this than any company, frankly, of data protection, where you sign in with an organizational account, like a Microsoft Worker School account, Enter ID, whatever it is, Purview, all the security stuff up in the cloud. You are working in a document that's secure. It's company secrets. You can't forward it. You can't take screenshots of it. All that stuff. So we're praying to God and hoping that this is the basis for all the stuff we're talking about in recall. We don't actually know for sure, but I mean, they do a better job of that. Do they 100%? I mean, could you prevent someone from holding up a camera and taking a picture of the screen? Probably not, right? So is anything perfect? Probably not. I don't know.
I would love to have recall. I think that will be generally the reaction of people is like, that's going to be really, really useful, especially after 20 years of using a PC. It's going to have everything I've done in the last 20 years. Well, I can see their excitement about it.
But it won't.
I know, because you'll have to use the same PC for 20 years.
It's just not going to happen. So, but they'll fix it, right?
Right.
So I don't know. I look, like I said, the outrage is predictable. I've not seen anything that has surprised me along those lines. We'll see. AI is happening so fast, and this is another one of those incursions where I don't know. We'll see. The world is going to look different in 6 months. It's going to look different in a year.
Yeah, to really be useful, it would actually have to be in the cloud. On all your computers and persist in between resets.
That's exactly
all
right.
of that stuff.
Yep.
And now we're really talking.
Oh my God! Now can of worms has become like an oil drum of worms.
You should have to be able to use it. You should have to provide a hardware key, because otherwise, that thing is dynamite.
Yeah. Yep.
But to some degree, that's what's going on with our smartphones. Is that's location and everything, and all that information is stored in there.
Oh my God. I had 2 random conversations with friends last weekend. Both of those things popped up on my newsfeed, which is supposed to be about tech.
Right.
And, we all have that experience. And creepy is one thing. Creepy is bad, right? I mean, we all know there's this compromise we've made between privacy and capability. Like, we get that. This stuff is, this is a little scarier.
I think Microsoft might have made a calculus saying, we think people are going to find this more valuable and they're going to worry about security, that they will choose.
But they had a room full of people sitting there.
Yeah.
All of whom were like, nope. They needed to address
not a room full of consumers.
Well, that's the difference. Consumers are going to say, hey, this is great. And it is our job to remind them that it's great, but it's a potential security nightmare.
I only very recently realized like what I was doing. Like I might have mentioned this. I apologize if I'm repeating myself. But if I can't find my phone, right? Some people will think, okay, where was I? Where did I go? What did I do? I can't think like this. I never. The way I think is, where would I put my phone? Like I don't actually remember putting it anywhere, but I don't usually put it in random places. So I go to those places and that's how I find things, right? And so I do that same thing online, as it turns out, or with my files, right? I have a very specific folder structure that I use to store things and organize things, both new and kind of archived. And the reason is I know if I'm looking, I wrote something about this topic 5 years ago. I know exactly where to go. I don't literally know that that's where it is. But I do because I know that's how I work. You know what I mean? And I think this recall thing helps with that kind of a problem, because we all think of things differently. I'm mental and maybe you aren't. So maybe you have a different system, but you know, where did I put that thing? And then you go and look and it's not there and you can't find it. I've searched for things in the file system in Windows 10 and not found it. Gone up to OneDrive.com and found it in 2 seconds, you know?
Well, isn't that what recents kind of is, right? I mean, that's in a way, this is a recents on steroids.
That's right. Yeah. Well, it's not just recents. I mean, in my case, I'm referencing an article maybe I wrote 5 or 10 years ago.
Well, the concern is it's going to have it will have your password, will it not? Or maybe if it's not on screen, it won't. So the dots will keep it from seeing that. But it will have your financial records if you go to your bank.
Yeah.
I mean,
and it will know you can afford that upgrade you're too cheap to pay for. Come on.
It'll be, you know, we're going to take a break. It's very interesting. And I will stand back and stand by and let you.
No, let them, they will trip on a rake. Yeah. They will. It's Microsoft. I mean, if anything is a certainty.
That's why I'm good there was a little outrage, faux or not, from the security community, because I want Microsoft to say,
me too.
Yeah, maybe.
Me too. But the overreaction to it is a little tough. It's hard because, you know, when someone says something like, this is the thing that will get me to move to Linux, you know, it's like, okay. I like, for some reason, the other awful crap from the past 2 years was not a big enough problem for you, but this is the thing to put it over the top, really? I mean, let's see what happens. That's all, you know, that's fair. Let's just see what happens.
It's not even out yet. That's fair.
Yeah. I mean, look, 2 weeks, we're going to be going to town on this thing when the financial records of the first Copilot PC buyer are posted on a website, you know? Yeah. We'll see what happens. That will be fun. You know? I don't know. I think there's a 50% chance between now and that date, Microsoft either turns this thing off completely, delays it, or makes adjustments. That was what I was thinking.
This isn't make first rev.
Yep.
You might be
That's
right.
It's a little too hot. They're going to go, I mean, they
can be stupid, but they're not crazy.
They don't need to.
You know.
Yeah, but the weird part is how much they hung on. Right?
To me, the weird thing is the wide-eyed innocence of like, you know, you trust
this is going to be the best thing ever.
And it's like, dude, no, we do not. You know. So we'll see.
All right. Little break. Then we have lots more to talk about. You're watching Windows Weekly with Paul and Richard. And we're glad you're here. This is why you listen, right? For this kind of conversation. Our show today brought to you by Collide. It's interesting because I don't know why, but almost all of our advertisers these days are security companies. Maybe there's something going on. Maybe there's something in the air. You've heard us talk about Collide before. Collide is for companies that use Okta, which is a great solution for making sure that people are authenticated before they get into your network and get to use your apps and see your data and all that stuff. That's great. Problem with Okta is it authenticates the person, but not their devices. It doesn't check to see if their devices are secure. That's what Collide does. So that's why it's a great partnership. And speaking of great partnerships, you've probably heard Collide was just acquired by 1Password. And that's really great news. Both companies are leading the industry in creating security solutions that put users first. For over a year, Collide Device Trust, Kolide, you've heard me talk about it, right? Has helped companies with Okta ensure that only known and secure devices can access their data. And they're still doing that, just they're doing it now as part of 1Password. So if you have Okta, if you use Okta, you've been meaning to check out Collide, do not hesitate. This is a great time to do it. Pre-built device posture checks, so you can write your own custom checks for just about anything you think of, but you get started with all the stuff you know you're going to need. Operating system up to date, browser up to date, stuff like that. Plus, you can use Collide on devices without MDM, which means your Linux fleet your contractors' devices, and every BYOD phone and laptop in your company. And now that Collide is part of 1Password, it's just going to get better. Check it out at collide.com/WW. There's a lot of information. You can learn more. There's a great demo there that explains it all. KOLIDE, collide.com/WW. We thank them so much for their support of Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott.
Yeah.
Richard Campbell. We move along to our next topic of the day.
Yeah. Framework laptop. You've gotten one of these lately.
I loved my Framework laptop.
I am fascinated by this. They have a 13 and 16-inch versions. I think they have a Chromebook now, if I'm not mistaken.
They do.
And, they keep revving them, obviously. So they just announced a rev for the 13-inch version, which is probably the mainstream version, which I think might be a 13.5-inch, really, which is a good size. Are moving to Intel Core Ultra chips, which, they're kind of 8 months into a 12-month schedule on that one, unfortunately. So they'll be AI PCs, but not Copilot Plus PCs. But I went through that thing and configured it, and I thought, these aren't that expensive for what you're getting, and the upgrade possible is, and there's also a new version for AMD as well, I should say. The upgradability there is just off the charts. I also like how they can sell like these little modules for USB ports, and they're all just the best one. It's like USB 4, Thunderbolt 4. That's what you're getting. You're not getting USB 2 on this one and USB 3.1 Gen 1, like all these stupid things. Like when I review laptops, there's like, it could be 7 USB ports. Every single one of them is different. I've reviewed laptops where you get the standard, what looks like 2 Thunderbolt ports, and one of them's Thunderbolt and the other one's USB. Guys, what are you doing? Like if this tiny company can do this, seriously. I know boards are made a certain way, et cetera, et cetera. How about we make them smart? I just thought, let's go for the good stuff. No one wants the USB 2 port anymore.
That's
anyways,
a builder. That's the build company cheaping out at the last second on parts.
It's such a stupid way to save money. It's just stupid.
But anybody who's buying a framework is picking all those parts, and they don't want your USB 2.
That's right.
I would say they don't have any because they'd never sell one.
You're buying a $1,500 to $2,500 Elite book, ThinkPad X1, name your computer. I don't want it there either. And you see some weirdness out in the world. That's all I'm saying. So I look at this thing and I think, yes, repairability, upgradability, love it. But man, like you get the best, you're getting the best stuff. Like I really like that.
It's hard to argue with that part.
Yeah, I love it.
And because you selected it yourself. Every single, the thing you can't do with any other laptop, every peripheral, every component.
And if you go from 6E to 7 on the Wi-Fi, and that card is, I don't know how much that costs, $50 or something, and that makes sense to you, I love that you can do it. You can do that on some laptops, but it's a neat idea. I like it. So I got to try to figure out, maybe I'll write them. I'd love to review one of these things. I'm fascinated by this product. And then because earnings never really end. Now we're getting into these esoteric schedules where like companies like quarter ends on some weird date, like April 24th or whatever the heck it is. It's just weird, but HP and Dell both announced earnings, kind of mixed. I mean, Dell is up 6% overall, but their PC business is flat like everyone else. They're saying, hey, look, we just did. They did announce 4 models of Copilot Plus PC, which I think is kind of interesting. And they're expecting growth from that kind of stuff. So we'll see. HP, which is the second biggest PC maker, quarterly 3% growth, unit shipments up on the PC side 7%. So they're going good. And same thing, we expect bigger, better, more from this change. They also took this. I don't know if I told this story. This is great. They are taking this as an opportunity, Copilot Plus PC, to rebrand their computers because they have too many brands on both the consumer and commercial side, right? Which is true. But the thing a friend of mine from HP said, think about it. Some of our brands actually aren't that great. I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, well, what about like Spectre? I'm like, Spectre's an awesome brand. She goes, yeah, we can't sell any in Japan because that's a malicious ghost. And nobody wants something like that in their house.
Something named malicious ghost in their house.
You named this computer Malicious Ghost X360, and nobody wants the damn thing. I'm like, okay. And then they're like, on the commercial side, we have this really high-end product, a family of products called Dragonfly. I'm like, yeah, those are awesome. Magnesium body, that deep blue, purple color, et cetera, et cetera. Like, well, they're like, what's a dragonfly? And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, it's a bug. Nobody wants a bug. I'm like, okay, that's a good point. So they're using the Omni and Elite prefixes on their PCs going forward. Right. Omni is a brand from their past. That's going to be what they use on the consumer side. So they'll have OmniBook laptops, Omni Studio all-in-one computers, Omnidesk, PCs, et cetera. And then the commercial EliteBook, which has been long running anyway. And Elite Studio for all-in-ones and Elite Desk for desktop PC. So that kind of simplicity, I can celebrate that. That's good.
Yeah. The only problem you got with your machine is a naming strategy. Fix the naming strategy.
Yeah, exactly. So they are. That's so good for them.
Yeah.
Moving along.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So last Wednesday was the day after week D, right? Which is usually the day after the Tuesday of week D, which is usually the day that Microsoft delivers their preview updates, right? This is a preview of the Patch Tuesday update that's going to come out next month. But that day came and went. And we did the show, and I don't remember exactly how we described it, but I said they kind of missed the date. But on Wednesday, they shipped their preview update and the version for 24H2. So if you followed my tip from last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever that was, and installed 24H2, if you install this preview update, you'll get a build upgrade that will match what we see in the release preview in the Windows Insider program. But you'll also get Copilot as an app, which is one of those features they were talking about for 24H2 at that event a couple of weeks ago. And I guess you could say it's kind of come full circle. This thing was a stupid sidebar they were trying to jam down everyone's throats. They have now put the icon in 1, 2, 3 different places in less than a year. Hilarious. Really screwing me up for the book, but I'm working on that, bastards. But anyway, so now it's a pinnable shortcut icon in the taskbar like any other app, so you can unpin it if you don't want it there. Let me just do that right now. Yeah, yep, the shortcut still works if you want to do Windows key plus C. So yeah, and I should say the big thing for me functionally is I made this complaint about the matrix of functionality with Copilot, where you look at Copilot across the web, mobile apps, Windows, Microsoft 365, and specific apps, and that there's these different capabilities, and not all the capabilities are everywhere. With Copilot from Windows 11 to date, if you have it in 23H2, one of the things you won't see in there are the custom GPTs, right? It's not, I don't know why. But now that it's moved to the app, that capability is there. So I would say, I don't know this for sure, but I think Copilot in Windows 11 with this update is now what it should be, which, as I think of it, a superset of Copilot, right? So you get everything Copilot gives you in the web, all those capabilities, plus I think it's called activities, the ability to control certain features and settings in Windows, right? That's the little value add there. I don't think it's a big deal, but it is there.
Right.
So that's that. And that means I have to do another episode of Hands on Windows about this, because it's already changed like 2 weeks.
Because they moved all your graphics around again.
Love it. Richard, I got to tell you. So I don't listen to this podcast, right? I can't stand the hosts. I don't like the topic.
Hey,
no. I mean, why would it?
What do you? Hey,
no, I'm kidding. But why would I listen? I'm on it, right? I don't have to listen to Hands.
No, I don't listen to any of my shows. No, you're right. Why would you listen to a show?
It's horrific. Why would you want to see this? So, no, I mean, it's just for me,
a dirty little secret of podcasters everywhere.
So I'm sitting in the airport the other day to fly here, and I finished whatever podcast. I'm going through the list. I'm like, oh man, and the last one in my what's new was the little blue run as icon.
Oh,
Paul Thurrott on run as talking about Windows 10, and I was like, I wonder. I'm going to listen to this. I listened to not all of it. I listened to about 45 minutes of it.
Yeah. That Richard guy's pretty good.
I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Half-hour show.
Those guys are hilarious.
Very funny.
You were talking about moving the cheese at one point, yes. And I said the problem with Windows 11 is that they didn't move the cheese. Someone ate some of the cheese, and everyone's like, "Where's my cheese? It's not here. It's gone." And I was like, "That is." I don't know what drug-addled state I was in when I said that, but I thought that was pretty funny.
Pretty funny.
Okay, so I maybe not for the first time, but in the first time in a long time, I listened to a podcast that I was in. I found it quite enjoyable.
That's good.
It's good. those two guys are good.
Yeah. No, we do seem to affect each other.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, I think you had it last week or the week before as like as your pick or whatever. So if you haven't,
it had come out that day. So I
feel strongly that you will enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, so Week D went out a day late, but we got that new capability, and I think we're going to see more and more 24H2 capabilities appear in the builds as new updates come. So that's kind of where we're at on that. And you can see like the past week has been a bunch of Microsoft adding this Copilot as an app, everywhere. So you saw it in Canary last week. You saw it in Dev. The only real new thing in the Windows Insider program since the last time we talked is they added a new beta channel in the Windows Insider program for Windows 10 users. Yeah. So
we're in. Wait, I thought we weren't getting new features in Windows 10, Paul. You told me. You said in everything.
So the way they describe it is we are going to add new features and improvements as needed, and we need a place to do active feature development. So we're going to open a new bit. Yep. So this thing has 15 months left to runway, and they're gonna
pump in a beta channel for it.
Which makes me feel good about Recall, because it's not like they're distracted, and I don't know what's going on here. It's weird, but yeah, they're gonna.
I don't know.
Okay.
So if date's going to stick, which was what that show was about.
Exactly. I don't think we ever said it this way, but if we were betting men and had money on the table, I think both of us probably land on that. They're probably going to extend it again. It's just too many things.
I asked you to do the show because they just moved it from April to October. It's like, they're going to move it again, right?
Oh yeah. I expect them to. We'll see.
Because the weight is too heavy.
It's a unique situation. Windows XP was extended 2 or 3 times, if I'm not mistaken. They never did a paid support program for that. I think honestly because it was their fault, and et cetera, et cetera. Windows 7, they had that paid thing. They didn't actually extend it past the original date, but they did give this 3 extra years of paid support. So, Windows 10, they could do both. I think that's a fun possibility. I think we've got to be open to that. They'll extend it an extra whatever, and then maybe not maybe they will. They've announced it. They'll do that paid support on top of it after that.
Yeah, they've already talking about that, but it's just a question of when they're going to enact that.
Right. So we'll see. All right. What else do we have here? It's been a busy week. Oh, that's mostly it, I would say, for the
on the Windows 11
Windows Insider. Yeah, just not a lot. I mean, you get the feeling we're in this kind of lull before the storm of Copilot Plus PC. And if you thought the complaining about recall was bad like this past week, I mean, it's just gonna get worse.
Yeah, it does beg for a Windows 12 though. It's like Windows AI.
Yeah.
If you're gonna be big on the branding thing, I mean, you made 11 because that Mac OS rev. So if you're really saying we need new hardware, give us a new OS.
I think the new OS is that orchestrator I was talking about. I think that right now we're buying time until we have something more sophisticated. Even before there is some deep sophistication in recall, but fundamentally, there's a system of taking screenshots, because there are no apps in the world now that are written to the APIs that will allow them to integrate with this. Right? When that happens, it won't be necessary for a content creation app of whatever kind to be screenshotted anymore, right? Like the screenshots should go down over time. Like that's one of the ways that this should get more sophisticated. Of course, that requires developers to buy in. And I don't know if you've been paying attention on the Windows side of things lately, but not a lot of that. This is the reason why Microsoft is hand adding WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger to the share sheet in Windows 11, for example. Like these are developers who just said, yeah, we don't care, so a lot of questions. Yep.
Okay. All right. Before we go on, I think I should
tell us about your toy.
Tell us about my toy. Look how light this is. Anyway, this is the amazing, and I'm really happy about it. Windows PC from HP and Intel, the new HP EliteBook 1040 G11. This portion of Windows Weekly brought to you by HP and Intel. It's HP's first commercial AI PC. It's got AI, of course, it's got AI acceleration to empower your workforce. Really great work laptop that your employees will be thrilled to have, but you'll like it because it keeps them working with exceptional performance, battery life second to none, and world-class security. with the HP EliteBook 1040G11, you get Smart Sense. I've got it running right here. You can see it right there. And what that does is cool, is it's constantly monitoring what you're doing, your work, your PC vitals, and makes automatic adjustments to energy hogging resources. You're getting amazing battery life, up to 29 hours. 29 hours of battery life, which is remarkable. Balancing the battery, fan, processor, everything runs inside your laptop. So it just sips at power when you're not doing something that needs more. But you press that Copilot key, Copilot's launching, it fires up. Oh, look, there's the pictures I made of Paul and Richard way back when. The audio is fantastic. Poly Studio is in here, so it's got Poly AI-driven audio. Windows Studio effects on the camera, transports your ideas and you to the meeting room with automatic face framing. So you can move like this and you stay in the frame. Eye contact, which is great because, most of the time on a Zoom call, you're looking at the screen, but it looks like you're looking right at the camera, which is very cool. Adaptive dynamic voice leveling for optimal voice clarity. It's based on your environment. So when it's noisy in the background, it'll actually reduce the noise. All of that with it because of AI and the AI capabilities of this machine. Of course, Copilot is built in the AI assistant that automates your workflow by suggesting personalized optimizations and streaming for efficiency. Use learning deadlines and personal productivity patterns to help you set priorities and manage your time effectively. Windows 11 Pro on this baby, the latest Core, Ultra 5 and 7, or you get your choice. But what you're really going to like, one of my favorite features is this 14-inch OLED screen. This thing is spectacular. I just love how good it is. 5-megapixel camera, HP Wolf security for business is built in, and a lot more. The newest HP EliteBook. It'll adapt to your workers' personal needs and behaviors so they can regain meaningful time and focus on meaningful work. For me, it means it's just a great laptop to take everywhere with you. Go to HP.com, search for the HP EliteBook 1040G11 to learn more today. We'll also have a link in the show notes. HP.com. Search for the HP EliteBook 1040G11. I like it, among many other reasons.
I love those laptops.
Isn't it great? It's got a Type A USB, but Type C. It's got a...
Yeah, I have the basic... I have the same laptop, but it's a ZBook Firefly 14. 14.
What is that? What's the difference? Is it lighter?
It's just that... So Firefly is their portable workstation product. So this is the entry-level one. So it's basically... that product, but with a very low-end dedicated GPU, like a 500 or 100, whatever.
This never, even with the Core Ultra, it never gets hot. I mean, it's really amazing. Full-size HDMI port, which for us is fantastic. Yep. It's got 1, 2, 3 Type Cs and 1 Type A. I like having the Type A. I still have thumb drives and stuff that have Type A.
Yeah, you never can get away from Type A entirely.
Never get away from that. Yeah. So it's nice to have it all. Really nice design. That is it, my friends. Our HP EliteBook 1040G11, my current Windows laptop. Let me plug it all back in because it's what I use for the show. And get back to, speaking of the show, get back to Paul and Richard and Windows Weekly, gentlemen.
I really don't like this new thing in Notion. What are they doing? I hate it so much. What do
they do?
Weird.
What do they do? What's
these lines on the side?
Oh,
I got to figure out how to turn
mini
that
map.
off.
They call that a mini map.
Yeah, that's what they call it in Visual Studio Code or Visual Studio too, I guess, right? Mini map. I hate it. That's the first thing I turn off.
I don't want a mini map.
So Microsoft this past week celebrated the 15th anniversary of Bing, which is fascinating because why would anyone celebrate Bing? And also Bing actually dates back to 1998 because it used to be called something else, but it's okay. We get it. It's a 15th anniversary of the branding of what used to be called MSN Search, Windows Live Search, and Live Search.
But the boss used to work there, so you have to be nice.
That's true. That's true. I have to say, the person who did this is Microsoft Corporate Vice President Jordi Rebus, and he's pretty realistic about it, right? Microsoft has only seen mixed success in trying to differentiate its search offering, but he believes the net impact will be positive over time, specifically because Microsoft Copilot uses Bing as as the back end for this
Copilot
stuff we're
everything.
about. Yeah,
that's what it is.
So, okay, Because I mean, I could see people picking AI specifically because it doesn't have Bing integrated into it. But I guess we all make our decisions, whatever. So
Well, they were
yeah,
first on the bandwagon, right? Like back in the
yeah,
day. And again, I think they called the boss and said, "Hey, remember us?"
yeah. I mean, does Google search need competition? You bet they do.
Yes. Has it got it?
Has this been the sweetest competition you've ever seen? If you're Google, yes, thank you for this gift. You make us look great. So I don't know,
Man.
but I always hear from those three guys who are like, I don't know what you're talking about. I use Bing every day and I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I punch myself.
And it was the rebranding, right? Like that was Bing was the rebranding.
Yeah. I've had good success with DuckDuckGo, and what I mean by that is I haven't turned it off. Like my
problem it hasn't made you angry yet.
Yeah, within just a few minutes every time. And it's like, geez, are you kidding me? And if I did this in Google, I would get this immediately.
Well, that's the one that gets you is when it's done the sneaky trick and swapped Bing in again, and you do a search not realizing, and you get results like, what the?
Yep.
Wait a second, and then you open up Google and go, oh yeah, okay, they swapped.
Like, here it is. Yep. Yeah. I had this problem when I was trying to find the ARM download for the Windows Insider program.
Not that Google's getting better; it is getting worse.
Yeah. Yep. It's being certified along with everything else in the world. Yeah. Now, thanks to Microsoft, they're pushing AI into it in an insane way.
Yeah. Now the first line on Google is the one you ignore.
Yeah, which is, geez, Louise.
Yeah,
like, seriously. Well, at least the health data they have is fantastic. So I would totally use that to see what's going on with me medically. I wouldn't worry about that at all. It says sarcastically.
Yeah,
I just want to be clear about that one.
I've got my Fitbit now.
Yep.
Bit by bit.
Yes. And then, unfortunately, CNBC reported this week that Microsoft is having layoffs yet again. There's some outrage faux and real over this as well, because it's happened so often, especially this past year or even just this calendar year, that we're not.
What, you mean one record quarter after another, and yet somehow we need to lay people off?
This is the argument, right?
Talking about?
And it's not even a devil's advocate position. If it weren't this topic, I would say, like here's a complaint. Microsoft adds some feature to Microsoft Outlook, and then someone will reply and say, yeah, but what about this feature I want? And then if it's really bad, they'll say, in this other product. And It's like, guys, the guy working on this feature in Outlook could not have solved cancer over here. It's a big company. They're different parts of the company. And so, yes, I look at this stuff, record profits and earnings, and it's unbelievable. The big keeps getting bigger and they're laying off. And I just don't know what to say. There's part of me that knows they overhired like everyone else did during the pandemic.
Yeah, but that was a while ago now.
I know that's the thing. They're dragging it out. This is what I said about the Xbox stuff. Like, guys, I think everyone understands this is going to happen. The way you're doing it is wrong.
Yeah.
It's just wrong.
I know Jason Zander. This is the guy who was the head of the CLR team after Brian Harry. He's the one who got WPF on Visual Studio, and then he moved over to some Azure teams, and he's been working on Azure for Operators, which I've done a run as on. So, and now they're cutting all those units. I mean, admittedly, I don't know how well these products were doing.
Right.
I hope those folks, are getting 90-dayed, like in the sense that they get to reapply somewhere else inside of the company, because they're obviously great people, and this is just organization.
Right. Yep. I don't know. I mean, nobody knows, right? So there's an interesting side story here, I think. We didn't talk about this, I don't believe, but I'm going to say about 2 weeks ago, Meta announced that they were killing their, I believe it's called Workspace, which was their office productivity in the cloud solution.
Equivalent,
right? Yeah. Microsoft, when they announced that, offered integrations with it. Remember, there's been some interesting partnership back and forth between these two companies for a while. So now here we have Microsoft potentially scaling back on this type of technology, which is the stuff Meta is still doing, mixed reality, AR, however you want to describe it.
Yeah.
I wonder if there isn't a little alignment here where Microsoft's saying, look, we get the Microsoft 365 stuff. Your customers are going to want that if they're using these things for work. But you guys seem to be very serious about the hardware. Why don't you do this stuff? And we'll put more and more of our stuff on it, right?
You're not allowed to do that, right? Isn't that, or are you? Is that colluding? I guess
I think you can.
Colluding.
I mean,
unless you set prices, it's not colluding. It's like
Yeah, I
Spain
think
and
it's okay.
Portugal.
They're-
You
they're-
take this
They're
half.
partnering.
Yeah, partnering. That's the
They're
word.
partnering. Yeah. Just like Mexico and Colorado partner on the water that comes out of the Colorado River. Or the whatever
You
river
didn't
that
need
is.
that, did you?
But the other thing about this announcement is that they've said it specifically it is a layoff due to the AI wave, that they're refocusing on the AI. So part of me wonders, it's just not a shareholder play and a stock price play.
Yep.
Like, hey, I'm doing these layoffs because keeping my employees a little freaked out is a good way to have them not demand raises.
Yeah.
And at the same time, say, hey, we're focusing everything on AI because it's the most important.
AI is expensive. Obviously, we know they're 10 to 15 billion a quarter on infrastructure costs, whatever.
Which they've got the cash in the
but they have the cash. That's right. And it's a high risk, high reward type of scenario. And I could imagine the decision makers at whatever level are looking at different parts of Microsoft and saying, this seemed like a pretty good bet a couple of years ago. In the face of what we're doing right now, maybe this makes less sense today.
Yeah. One would argue that they have been feeling around for what are the workloads that are going to matter in the cloud, and they found them.
Yeah. Right. Yep. Yeah. And I always say this about HoloLens, whatever anyone thinks about it, the big flaw there wasn't so much the field of view per se, because the underlying technology was special. I mean, immediately, the instant you experience it, you realize how special it is. The way that like a virtual ball feels like it's sitting on a hard top, and it would survive. There was no lag. It was never behind. Like that stuff was magical.
Created object permanence where the object was
incredible. Yeah, this relationship between spatial, like space in the real world and in this holographic world, it was astonishing.
Yeah.
But the downside to what they did, and by the way, a little bit like AI, clearly Satya Nadella, whoever, got very excited when they saw this and said, let's go. And they kind of went to market before they had any killer app, and I think the feeling here was the feeling over time became, it started as someone's going to write that killer app. That never happened. But there are these, what I would call it, kind of vertical killer apps, for lack of a better term. There were some really good use cases that made sense to me. The car designer wearing the mixed reality headset, or the HoloLens, and the people looking at his design just wearing the mixed reality version because it's cheaper and doesn't do all the capabilities. Yep. But that market is not big.
I've always equated the HoloLens as it's the BlackBerry circa 1998. Right.
When it was sort of a pager and
it was a remarkable device, but it cost $1,000 each. It cost hundreds of dollars per month to run. It took 3 guys in lab coats to keep your infrastructure working on it.
Yep.
And if you look at these verticals in HoloLens, it's a $3,500 headset. That's one thing, but it's $1,000 a month in Azure charges to run them.
It's a BlackBerry that nobody bought. So it's not really a BlackBerry.
Well, I mean, the
BlackBerry did very well in that market. Back then, BlackBerry was not a consumer product. It was for big enterprise.
No, he's saying nobody bought HoloLens. Like, I mean, look, in an audience of 1,000 people, there's going to be one guy in the back of the room going, "Oh my God, that is exactly what we need."
Solves the problem.
And the other 99 are like, "Are you people insane?" So there were
people now buying Vision Pros or no?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean,
it seems like such a tiny market, and a Meta and Microsoft and Apple have kind of.
I feel like it's more likely that the majority of the people who did use HoloLens just realized they didn't need anything like this, and that moving to another thing like this wasn't the solution.
Yeah,
with exceptions, of course.
Yeah, there are verticals where it's functioning fine, but they're expensive verticals. It's not a consumer product.
No, and they wanted to get it there, and the mixed reality platform was.
Yeah, I mean,
there was very
once upon a time, the cell phone wasn't a consumer device. There are verticals where this function fine because it's an expensive device. But when the value prop is that high, it's fine. Yeah. Getting it turned, and that was true of cell phones back in the day.
So it just never became a mass market.
It's been true. Lots of technologies. It takes time to get to a place. Yeah. Making a consumer device is hard. What did Apple do? They made the smartphone consumer device. They existed before then. They just weren't for consumers.
Right. Yeah. So will Vision Pro or the Meta Quest stuff ever achieve anything close to that? I don't know. I mean, you might argue they're already.
It's so obvious.
I know. I'm trying to be nice. I don't know. I don't see it, but I don't know. I just don't see it. But
I finally bit the bullet. I'm doing a Swedish death cleaning, cleaning out all the stuff so my heirs don't have to.
Right.
And I finally
love
bit the
this.
bullet. I've been staring at the Oculus Pro, the $1,400 Oculus Pro, sitting there gathering dust, and I finally just brought it in and put it in Leo's garage sale because I don't think I'll ever strap it on. I asked my kid.
It's going to be a beautiful way to read Microsoft Word. That's all I'm saying.
That's the funniest one when they really push productivity. Like, that's a terrible
So you're
way.
saying this thing could float in the air in front of me? God.
That's what I've always wanted.
Yeah, I didn't want to ever escape Word, so that's great. I don't know.
I just don't get it, But these companies can afford to throw stuff at the wall, and sometimes it doesn't.
There's
stick.
always someone who's like, this is the thing for me. Like, there's always someone. The question is whether that makes sense to Apple or Meta or Microsoft in this case as a business. And I think Microsoft does not like to come out and say, like IBM with the PC Junior, like, we're done making these things. Its production run is concluded. They hate to be that definitive when a product dies. They just don't, they dragged Windows Phone users through 3 years of unnecessary angst, even though they'd killed the thing internally.
Yeah.
This is, maybe we're seeing a little bit of that here with mixed reality and HoloLens. I don't know. They do have that one ultimate vertical market of the U.S. Army.
They keep dangling and walking away and dangling and walking away.
And maybe that thing should be spun off as a defense contractor product or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's my PC key takeaway.
Yeah.
All right. I'm still not seeing your notes or whatever your ad notes. So are we good to keep
ad
going?
breaks after AI?
You are more than good. You are fantastic. You're just a beautiful, beautiful human being.
Oh, keep talking. No, that's fine.
What
That's
did
enough
you have
of that.
for lunch? Out of curiosity, what did you have for lunch today?
So because we're in Mexico,
City, yeah,
I had breakfast because this podcast starts at 12 noon. So lunch here is at 1 o'clock.
Oh,
so
you're back on my time. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
This the place down the street has a new item on the menu. It's called desayuno inglés.
English breakfast.
And I said, "Is this is new, right?" And the guy doesn't speak English, but yes, whatever.
Is it
it's because there's so many expats coming to the neighborhood, so you get like it's just a bunch of extra sausage. It's like the type of thing an American would want to eat for for breakfast. It's classic.
All the sausage.
Yeah, I think there might have been 3 kinds of sausage. It was because that's what I ate. You asked. That's why I'm telling you this.
Sounds good.
All the meat.
It
was very good, very filling.
Let's talk about AI. And not that we haven't been for the last hour and a half. Seems like that's really the topic.
There's gonna be an episode of the show 6 months from now, 7, where one day we're like, we don't have anything to say about AI.
Yeah.
That day is not today.
Nope.
No.
So everyone knows Microsoft has invested billions and billions of dollars. Was it 11, 13 billion? What are those numbers?
13.
In OpenAI. This was some weird junk with OpenAI, right? I mean, this was some weirdness, right? From the Frankenstein up on stage to the the power coup, and now we're starting to get people on the board talking, and they're like, actually, you're making us look like we're jerks, like we were doing the right thing. So there's all this stuff with this company. This guy is a Bond villain. It's classic, but OpenAI is rumored now to definitively be partnering with Apple. This is from Mark Gurman. There could still be a Google element to this. It's supposed to be for a chatbot, like Copilot.
We'll find out Monday.
ChatGPT.
WWDC, all the announcements. Yep.
And I don't know if it was Gurman or someone else, but it could also be temporary in the sense that Apple has been working on their own in-house ChatGPT type chat client, and it's just not quite there yet. So, look, every day there's a story about AI doing something squirrely, and it's going to be fascinating when you talk about mainstream users, like I was saying earlier, like iPhone users. A lot of those guys are just people, and weird stuff starts happening on the phone. I don't know. So this is going to be an interesting world we're about to move into, but that's supposedly happening. And of course, internally, Microsoft is reportedly not very happy about this, right? This is a primary competitor. I mean, granted, OpenAI is also a competitor, but they're an unknown new company, et cetera. I mean, I think Microsoft looks out at the world and they see Google and Amazon up in the cloud, and they see Google and Apple on the client. And, if there's a workable Siri something on an iPhone, no one's going to download, no one's going to put Copilot on their phone. Why would they? So this is their, battle to lose, I guess.
It's really, these chatbots are toys, right? They're not. Am I wrong? I mean, I like AI. I'm excited about AI, but they just feel like toys.
I haven't done this yet. I think I told you guys I modernized my legacy WPF application, just the UI, right? There's a lot of work to be done there. I'm going to spend the rest of the year on that because this stuff is not coming out even in preview to do all of it until later in the summer. It's going to be months. So that's something very interesting. But one of the other things I've been working on is trying to figure out how to get small language models working, and what does that look like? And some of those Microsoft build sessions are very useful along these lines. And using an SLM like Microsoft Phi, which, by the way, heard people pronounce Phi as well. And seriously, could we arrive at a name or a pronunciation of this thing?
Gemini or Gemini?
Yeah. I say Gemini because
Azure.
Azure
was
for
the big one.
years. Phi, is it PHI? It is. It's PHI.
Yeah.
PHI,
So if you're saying the Greek alphabet, that letter is Phi.
Yep. So I have heard Phi more than Phi, but I have heard both, right? But anyway, you can use this Visual Studio Code. You can do it in Python or C#, and you can write your own little chatbot. And honestly, the demos they do, and this is something you just build yourself locally, runs locally, doesn't hit the cloud. It's just using whatever grounding of data that it has. I don't remember the size, but maybe it's 18 gigabytes or something on disk or whatever the size is. And the experience is very much like what you get with ChatGPT or Copilot. Now, it's ChatGPT 3.5 level intelligence, for lack of a better term, but it's like, this is the thing. This stuff is everywhere. Like, it's going to be everywhere. Why would I? I don't know, but I could add a chatbot to my stupid little notepad app. Like, this is just, I know that's my point. I don't know, but
why would that stop anyone?
Exactly. Right.
It's easy to
I
do,
did
right?
it because I could.
Yeah.
No, because I'm curious just how this stuff works. But
Infused with AI.
it's probably
It's
not
really
the right
what it
place
is.
for
It's
it.
a
But
selling.
it's the
No,
you go
now
to
you can
go to
raise
war
$5
with
million.
Germany. Anyway, it's very interesting to me that this is an interface. This is like going from the GUI back to the command line a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's part of a transition. Obviously, voice will be part of this, or you can just with voice if you want. It's that whole interaction thing. It's like the next gen personal digital assistant, where it's not just blurting commands. You're having a conversation.
As much as I mock VR, I think you can make a strong case that voice interfaces are an even bigger flop. Companies put more money into it. They invested more into it. They thought it was going to be
and they announced that they were losing money on them, and they didn't want to keep
losing money hands over fist. And all anybody uses it for is cooking timers. And what's the weather
Anyone
like?
who uses an iPhone will have had this experience where you want to talk maybe into a text app, like a texting app, and then you go, blah, Richard, blah 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 blah, whatever it is.
I
and
do that.
And you're like, that's not what I said. What is this? Like what? Like some of the speech recognition is horrible. But asking people to type.
Prompts?
We can't even handwrite anymore. How are we gonna? Who can type? We're just gonna be stopped soon. We're gonna be like hitting this thing like apes.
So
like
I have 4.0 as my action button on my iPhone, so I can talk to it anytime I want.
You made.
Hey, how you doing? What's going on today?
Oh, that's amazing.
It's my little friend.
Hey, Leo. I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. How about you? Anything interesting happening today?
Yeah, we're
just doing a podcast called Windows Weekly. You ever listen to podcasts?
That sounds like a fun session. I do get to listen to a lot of podcasts through interactions like this. What topics are you diving into for Windows Weekly today?
Don't you dare.
Did you notice I didn't mention Windows Weekly and it knew it was Windows Weekly? Did you notice that?
I think you said Windows
I
Weekly.
did? Oh, okay, never mind. You're not as smart as I thought.
Yeah, I noticed. I've got a bit of memory about your usual activities and interests. How's Windows Weekly going today? Any exciting topics on the agenda?
Well, since you know the name of the show, do you know the name of the hosts?
Ooh.
Sure do. You host Windows Weekly, along with Paul Thurrott and Richard Campbell. It's a great show with lots of insights on Microsoft and Windows news.
Now
Are you discussing anything
you're
particularly
just
intriguing today?
tap dancing.
We're talking about you and why anybody would want a chat assistant, an AI chat assistant on their devices.
Hey, people, why do they want an Alexa? People
That's
are
an interesting topic.
lonely.
There are a lot of reasons people might want an AI chat assistant. They can help with organizing schedules, answering questions quickly, providing recommendations, and even offering a bit of entertainment. What are your thoughts on AI assistants?
See, it always asks
I miss
questions.
ScarJo.
Yeah, I miss ScarJo.
Yeah, no, because
you know?
this is how it fakes,
Yeah, no, it's very Eliza-ish now,
Yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah.
it's Rogerian. It's like, and it takes what you said, turns it around. It's very much like Eliza. I expected better by now.
Your disappointment 4.0.
I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed 4.0.
Mostly disappointed in Sam Altman.
Yeah. He's
I
an
don't know if
interesting
we
feller.
can be disappointed. Was he ever not this weird freakazoid? You know what I mean? Like maybe he's just. He's
What
like,
did
"Look,
you
I showed you what I ripped the mask off. You know.
No, it's true. If you knew him in high school, you would have stuffed him in his locker.
Everyone, I mean, who worked with him before was like, yeah, he was a lizard.
Yeah.
I mean, you're like, what did you think he was going to turn into?
Yeah.
You know. It's like when there's a serial killer and his neighbor's like, no, he was a nice guy. Like, I don't think people are going to say that about him. I don't think so.
He was so quiet.
Oh, so he was quiet. He did. He kept to himself. And then a rocket blew out of his garage and went up to space one
And
day.
we found all those body parts, right? Like, you know.
He had a
Well, we had to feed
strange
the AI somehow, you know.
fascination with Skynet anyway.
Yeah, he's very quiet except for the chopping noise.
It's funny.
Yes.
So in some ways, AI has far exceeded what we thought it could. But in other ways, it hasn't. And I don't know if we're ever going to get to Skynet. I mean, I just don't. No.
Well, I hope you're right. Right.
Yeah,
I mean, and
it's
this
hard
is
on the planet.
It's a fundamental question. Look, getting rid of us might be good for the planet, but
It's a separate issue.
I just think I keep coming back to the same thing. Like I feel like, and actually, let me just mention the last story in the section now because this is a great example of why. Raspberry Pi Foundation announced, I think it's a $50 add-on board for the Raspberry Pi 5 for doing hardware accelerated AI. This thing has a higher TOPS score than the very best Intel CPU that's for sale today.
Wow.
Okay. It's not enough it's only 13 TOPS, but it's still better than Intel. It is, $70. And they've got a whole, it's Raspberry Pi. They do the whole thing. They're great. They have documentation. They've got these great, great getting started guide, et cetera, et cetera. They support multiple models. And this is, if this can be on this thing, it's like Doom. It's everywhere, right? You can run Doom on your cable box. You can run it on your washing machine. It's like everywhere. AI is everywhere or will be. And this is the conversation I keep thinking, going through my brain, like, how does Microsoft or Google or OpenAI or anybody charge for a thing that everyone has already, right? If these little local AI things are not local, it doesn't matter, are good enough to solve the problems we have when we ask them questions or whatever it might be, to help us write, to help us create images, et cetera, which, by the way, is another one of the Guild sessions. You can use code that's available today to do generative AI image creation, right? Fascinating. So what am I paying for Copilot for exactly? It's a little better. It's you're going to let me ground this in whatever I want. I think AI is that amazing advance, that a lot of people suspected, but I also think like it's just going to be the way it is. I think it's just going to be everywhere.
The AI hat, Jeff Gerling put it on there. This is a giant hat.
Who's that? Like, is
Jeff
that the
Gerling.
Intel version?
I don't know what this is.
Well, it's just a joke, right? Here's a gigantic
It's a PCI Express daughter board on top of a Raspberry Pi.
On a Raspberry Pi hat.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a hat.
Yeah.
The world's
No,
largest
this one is
hat.
this one is the thing I described is also a hat, but it's actually
Not
more
quite.
realistically sized. it would fit in the
Not a
case,
stovepipe hat. Yeah.
No, it's a little like M2. Well, it's bigger than M2, but it's like in that ballpark.
Yeah.
Credit card size, maybe.
Anywho.
Everyone's doing it, is what I'm saying.
Everyone's doing
Google has come under a lot of criticism for the thing we were talking about earlier, which is AI overviews in search. The fix so far has been to remove it from most search results, which is probably best. But they're going to fix it. And I would just say, maybe someone knows, but it seems to be they had an image generation problem in Gemini. They pulled that from the product and is that even back yet? Can you actually create images again with Gemini? Did they ever actually bring that back?
Oh, really? Wow.
I'm not really sure.
Wow.
I haven't tried.
Google has been very ironic, or it's interesting. Ironically, security or
so
safety
which do you
focused,
prefer? A safety-focused Google,
right?
Or a Sam Altman who says, "Go, go, go! Who cares? Damn the torpedoes."
Yeah, which evil dictator would you like to live under, Mussolini or Hitler? And I'm like, I'm going for that guy from Japan, frankly. Ito, I guess.
Hirohito,
I don't know. Hirohito, whatever it was.
He's going to ask you to get into an airplane. You're not going to like it.
Yeah, exactly. Just take a short airplane ride to the
Yeah. Don't worry, it ends quickly.
But it didn't. So. I don't know. And the problem with I keep saying this, it's not the problem. A problem with AI is it's changing so fast, it's hard to say anymore, right? If you literally wanted to say today in this slice of time, which of the major 3 AIs is the best, whatever that means, you'd have to break it down from there. It's like, well, what are you doing with it? Maybe one of them is better for image generation of a certain kind. Maybe one of them is better for helping you write or whatever the little use cases are, right? I don't know, but it kind of doesn't matter because 2 minutes, 2 weeks, 2 years are going to go by. It's going to be completely different. It keeps changing. So AI, it's fun. It's fun. A good time in my life for everything to start moving fast again. It's good. I'm just cresting here and, or crowning or whatever I'm doing.
It saved my interest in technology.
Yeah. Someone put the blender on fast,
Yeah. All of a sudden, I'll show real quickly while we, try to get Richard back. Sorry. This tweet Teku put in here from Tycho Brahe, who says, "Can someone explain to me why there are people, really smart people, who think consciousness can arise as an emergent property of a database?" To which POTUS Speedrun Record replies, must be Twitter, "Well, consciousness arising as an emergent property of meat is already pretty weird." Good point. To which Tycho Brahe says, "Well, meat discussing the possibility of rock sentience has a whiff of chauvinism, I suppose."
Yep. Yeah, it's good. We're not keeping the man down. We're keeping the metal down.
We're keeping the metal down. Isn't that that's right? A great exchange, actually. Fascinating.
Yeah, it is.
Very funny.
Yeah.
That's the kind that middle quote there that is the kind of clear thinking that I think is lacking in this world a lot. Yeah. Just kind of putting it in perspective.
Yeah, we're talking meat. We're talking meat, kids.
I said this too. We were at my friend's house last week and I said to his daughters, "You like cheeseburgers, right?" And they're like, "Yep." Like, "You like peanut butter, right?" Yeah. And like, "Yep, I'm going to blow your mind. Those two things together are delicious." And they were like, "Oh, it's gross. It's weird, Ew. And it's just like, well, what you're used to is normal to you. But the reality is there's a whole world of things out there. And you're just not thinking. You're just thinking in your little box. So they tried it and they hated it. But anyway, the point is, no.
So are you saying AI is the peanut butter and hamburger of technology? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying AI, you've put your peanut butter in my cheeseburger.
Nice.
No, am I saying that?
Some of us are unhappy.
Yeah. Some of us are like, nice.
There's a very funny sci-fi, I think it's actually a radio play by Terry Bisson called "They're Made of Meat," and it's it's not very long. It's kind of worth reading. But I'll read you a few sentences for it. They're made out of meat. Meat. They're made out of meat. Meat. There's no doubt about it. We picked several from different parts of the planet, took them aboard our recon vessels, probed them all the way through. They're completely meat. That's impossible. What about the radio signals, the messages to the stars? They use radio waves to talk, but the signals don't come from them. The signals come from machines. So who made the machines? That's who we want to contact. They made the machines. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Meat made the machines. That's ridiculous. How can meat make a machine? You're asking me to believe in sentient meat. I'm not asking you. I'm telling you, these creatures are the only sentient race in the sector, and they're made out of meat.
Right. Good stuff. We are made out of meat. Some of us are more fat than meat, but there's meat in there.
It's all meat all the way down.
It's a kind of a marbling effect in my case.
It's all just degrees of meat.
It's just good eating, you know, frankly. And then I don't even know what we're talking about anymore. Gemini something.
Google being timid, OpenAI being brave. What does it matter? in the long run, no one's going to remember.
It's just going to be everywhere. Amazon bringing AI search to Fire TV is just the Mad Libs question we're going to be writing headlines for the next 2 years. Company brings AI of some kind to product of some kind. Of course, it's just going to be everywhere. And that's maybe that is the point.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more like air or whatever. It's an essential service. I don't know. What do we call this thing?
Just compute.
Sentient Meat.
Compute.
Sentient Meat.
Yeah.
It's I like that we're accelerating the destruction of the environment, so that's working out well.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Maybe this is a bad time to be really doing all this, burning up the sky and everything. Search in Fire TV. What are you searching for? I mean, Apple TV has search.
I refuse to know anything more than I just said about this topic. It's only an example of how it's just going to be I wouldn't use a Fire TV if you paid me to use it. It's just, but some people do. And of course, just like you have ads there now, you're going to have AI search there now. Great.
Well, and all recommendation engines have a probabilistic component to them. Yeah. But if you label it as AI, stock price goes up.
Yep. Yeah, and it's Amazon, and they need to play for that. They got to have some good end user examples of stuff.
They don't want to be the also ran.
Yep. I mean, Amazon, like Microsoft, is one of those companies that could win in AI by losing, right? Because so much will run on their infrastructure regardless.
Yeah. Although Scott Galloway was quoted as saying, NVIDIA's stock price has gone up the value of Amazon.
Yeah.
Wow. In the past year and a half.
Wow.
I believe, are they the third biggest company in the world now?
That, yeah.
Or the third in tech or whatever it is?
Yeah, it's Microsoft, Apple, Nvidia, I think.
Yeah.
They,
you talk about who's really selling the shovels, Nvidia is really selling the shovels.
I don't know could you find a point in the past where any company in tech or otherwise has exploded like that?
No,
I can't.
And it's overvalued without a doubt.
Can I say there has been one? iOmega, when they came out with the zip drive.
Oh,
iOmega skyrocketed.
Sure.
Briefly.
Yeah. Okay. I only know this because a guy.
Where are they now?
I was doing a radio show out at a model home, and a guy drives up in a Rolls Royce and gets out and says, "You bought me this car." I said, "I did." He said, "Yeah, you told me about zip disks, and I bought iOmega." To which I replied, "I hope you sold it."
I turned it into a car.
Look. I
turned it into a crater.
I don't actually should look at how much growth iOmega had. I don't think anything's ever been like this NVIDIA growth.
And the NVIDIA numbers are profound.
Yeah.
And again, they're not sustainable. They're in the right place at the right time. And I hope they got another act in them because for the most part, I like those guys. But
they do seem to be addressing. Look, the whole world is gunning for them now. Intel, AMD.
Yep.
Although partner in some way, or not AMD.
Oh no, this is the game, right? Everybody's partnering at the same time, trying to replace.
Yep. So they're kind of cautiously circling each other. But I mean, NVIDIA's legit. They're going to be hard to displace. So we'll see. Well, I guess one way to do it is make everything run on the NPU.
Yeah.
I guess you could do that. So,
let's see. This is 1996. iOmega gained 2,135% over a 1-year stretch.
Wow.
Now the market cap was nowhere near like Nvidia's.
Yeah, no, but it was.
If it started $2, it's only up.
Yep.
Right.
That's still astonishing.
That's
and
the
then
only one I could think of.
Whatever what was the thing they came up with zip disk? So they imploded immediately. They had a little flat thing with this.
Yeah.
Clip disk or something. I think something. That sounds familiar, but anyway, it doesn't really matter. They, storage became what storage became, and the need for something to replace the floppy was not necessary.
And by the way, they're gone.
Using the floppy,
right? They
have to be, right?
Yeah.
Long
gone.
Were they bought by like D-Link at one point, or Belkin, or
EMC bought them in 2008, another storage company.
Okay, storage.
Shut it down.
Yeah.
Yep, they're using zip disk technology in their data centers, powered by zip disk.
In 1 year's time, more than 2,000%, but then they plummeted 68% on May 22nd, 1997.
Yeah. I would never have thought of this company. That's a good call.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I don't know. There must be some way. I should ask. No, I won't. Never mind. I don't want to know.
All right. Okay. The greatest measure of any technology is will it run on the Raspberry Pi, and obviously it does.
Yep. No, it does. So there you go. We're done. AI is now silly.
Yeah.
Just stop.
You've crossed over to silly.
It's over.
I mean, it runs unreliably, but it runs.
Yep. I have some zip disks in the drawer, by the way.
Often characterized by dramatic increases in share prices over a relatively short period. Here are a few notable examples. 1. Amazon, AMZN. Amazon stock has seen several significant run-ups, especially during the early 2000s .com boom, and more recently during the COVID-19 pandemic when e-commerce surged.
Let me see what other ones. Bitcoin. Bitcoin surged dramatically in 2007. Tesla. There you go. Tesla stock saw a meteoric rise in the late 2010s. Apple. They didn't even mention Iomega.
Yep. Right.
I would like to see percentages.
I can't imagine Apple shot up 2,000% in one year. I mean, it was definitely a rocket sled, but yeah, that's a big number.
Let me ask Google, see if it knows. What were the largest stock gains?
Like annual stock gains, yeah.
Yeah. Google might
smart,
know.
I would say. Do you want to go by fiscal year or calendar year?
Okay, the biggest gain ever posted by one stock in a single day was $191 billion by Amazon.
Yes.
In let's see. That was February 22.
Really?
Let's see. Altria Group, which is of course the fake name that Philip Morris chose so that you wouldn't know they made cigarettes, has increased 170,000 times, but that's over a century of trading. Coca-Cola appreciated 1 million % since its IPO in 1919.
When they were still using actual cocaine in the product.
Yeah, I mean, I think 1 year 2,000% is pretty remarkable.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah. The best investment of all time, Bitcoin. Cumulative return of over 20 million %.
Yeah, but percentage of people can actually get money out of Bitcoin, 17%.
You had to get it at the very beginning.
Both guys,
Yeah. That's pretty amazing.
Find a Bitcoin ATM machine.
You know, the largest
are in Silicon Valley.
single day loss. Remember, Amazon's biggest was in 191 billion in 2022. Same year, Meta lost $232 billion in one day.
Yeah. I think they have the all-time record.
How we cried for Mark Zuckerberg that time.
All right,
and he was dabbing his eyes with $100 bills.
Yeah, he was
poor Mark
helicopter.
Zuckerberg. Oh, all right. Let's take a little time out. Take a break. We got to change the subject. Your favorite meat puppets, Windows Weekly, is on the air. Richard Campbell and Paul Thurrott. Nvidia today up 5%. Market cap $3 trillion. Oh, it just went past Apple. Thank you, Scooter X. Nvidia just eclipsed Apple at $3.003 trillion. Nvidia $3.012 trillion.
That CEO had growth, incentives.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's amazing, man. All right, we should change the subject. How about I feel like a little Xbox amuse-bouche. What do you say?
Very little Xbox, unfortunately. Last week was a bouillabaisse of cultural delights, but this time a couple of things are only kind of peripheral to Xbox. Asus has announced their own handheld PC gaming device, right? Ally X, a ROG. What is that? Something
Realm of Gamers, something like that. Yeah.
And now we have a few of these things.
The Republic of Gamers or Gaming.
Republic of Gamers. There you go.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I think this is a brand they bought. I think that was a thing, wasn't it? They made peripherals and stuff, I think.
Something like that. Yeah.
But whatever it is. So yeah, interesting. So I'm wondering now if there's something here. Is this some future of something? Or I don't know if anyone remembers this, but 8.1-inch tablets held in the vertical portrait position were a thing for about a year. In the wake of Windows 8, when they were trying to recast that, every PC maker came out with this little 8.1-inch tablet. Like this was where it was going to make sense, And there were some good ones. I had a couple of Dell 8.1-inch tablets, pretty good for the day, but the platform was what it was anyway. So I guess my question here is whether these handheld Windows-based gaming systems are that kind of thing, like kind of a flash in the pan. Maybe they don't become something, maybe they do. I just, Windows is where the compatibility is, but it's also where the higher system requirements are. It gets a little tough if you could get all the games you wanted, something like, Linux would make more sense as this kind of a device, right?
Yeah. Depends on the games, of course.
Yep. And
Remember, Steam Deck is Linux, so
yeah. But you can install Windows on it if you want. I mean, I guess some people would want that, but yeah, you kind of have to look at it and say, well, what's available through Steam and Linux or whatever, and what does this look like? Is it good for me? Maybe, maybe not. I still think a Xbox, PlayStation, whatever kind of handle like a Nintendo Switch type thing would make tons of sense because it's the right combination of factors where you have this easy to use like unified device. You've got the built-in simplicity of like an Xbox platform in our case or whatever. You can play some portion of these games on device that you bought digitally from whatever generations. And then you've got this catalog that also runs off of cloud gaming. Although I was just trying that here and I have a better connection here than I do in Pennsylvania. And cloud gaming does not cut it when you want to play a game like Doom Infinite or whatever that title was. Right. The newer kind of just, 3D shooters, like it's not possible. Like you just can't do it. So I don't know. Anyway, this thing exists and,
somebody will buy it.
Someone will buy it. There's something for everybody.
Yeah.
And then Sony threatened to, and then followed through on the threat to release its VR2 adapter. So you can use the Sony VR2 headset. This is I think it's a $600 VR system for the PlayStation 5, if I'm not mistaken. If I am, it was $500. It was really expensive. So you can get an adapter, which people might remember. They did this, for HoloLens. So you could use HoloLens with a PC before they made it just PC compatible, right? And what's the market for that? I don't know. But, Sony is going into PC games pretty hard, just like Microsoft is. And they're bringing more and more of their titles there. So maybe there's some crossover. It's hard to say. Maybe there's a Sony service coming down the pike that will be like Game Pass or whatever, where you, I guess they kind of have it, right? PlayStation.
I mean, do they expect to sell more headsets, or is it just making the headset more useful for those who bought them?
Yep. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think the price on that thing has to come down, but I don't know.
All right. That was a brisk.
Yeah, it was brief. I'm sorry, guys.
5-minute Xbox segment. That's all right. Tips and picks, the back of the book coming up. We're going to give Paul a minute to get himself a tip of the week. Brown liquor pick coming up as well. But first, I do want to put in a plug and a thank you. Really a thank you to all of our Club Twit members who have made this show possible. We started Club Twit a couple of years ago, seeing kind of the ad apocalypse coming upon podcasting. So many podcast networks, podcasts, even public radio layoffs, closings, and I don't know why. I have some theories, but no one really knows why. But we do know that our revenue's down significantly, so much so that we're going to have to depend on our audience if we want to keep going. That means you. If you're not yet a Club Twit member, I just want to put a pitch in. It is a wonderful community. As you might imagine, a community of people who not only listen to our shows, but care enough to pay $7 a month. I think that's a good group of people. You can meet them in the Discord. That's part of your benefit. You get ad-free versions of all the shows, video of all the shows, including Hands on Windows with Paul. That's audio only to the public, but video to the club members. Same with Micah Sargent's Hands on Macintosh, the Untitled Linux Show, Scott Wilkinson's Home Theater Geeks. Actually, we're doing some fun stuff now in the club. Micah has decided to do a Micah's Craft Corner, which I think is, I love this idea. You can do that on the third Wednesday of every month. Let's see, what's coming up here on our Club Twit schedule. Our live coverage of WWDC, Apple's developer conference, 10 a.m. on Monday, Pacific. iOS Today, of course, records in the club every other Tuesday. There it is. Micah's Crafting Corner is coming up on June 19th. I think we're going to move Stacy's Book Club. June 20th is a bad day for Stacy and me, so we'll move that either a day or a week in the other direction. Nevertheless, that's just part of the fun. The events, the shows, but mostly the fun is knowing you're supporting Twit. I canceled the other day. He said, yeah, I'm not going to pay for it because I listen to the ads anyway. It's not really about getting ad-free versions. That's a benefit. But what it really is taking up the slack from advertisers that have left podcasting. It's expensive to do it the way we do it. we're probably going to have to close the studio next month to save money. We'd like to keep doing new shows. We'd like to keep doing the shows we're doing. We need your help to do that. twit.tv/clubtwit. I hate to beg. I'm not good at this. But I would hate to also have you say, you should have told us. So I'm telling you. Now you know. All right, back of the book time. Paul Thurrott, kick us off with your brand new, never before seen tip of the week.
Thank you for that intro, Leo. I flew to Mexico yesterday, and I cobbled the notes together yesterday while I was still conscious, so I didn't have time to come up with a tip. I brought this up earlier in the podcast, but I did listen to the Run As episode that Richard discussed, I think last week or the week before that I was on. And
933 was the episode.
I thought it was good. It's a stupid thing to say. Like it's us, but I thought it was good. So if you like Windows Weekly, you probably like that episode. So I apologize. That's not much of a tip, but there you go. And then app pick of the week, Opera. Opera has been kind of killing it lately with AI stuff, right? They just announced something that sounds lame, which is emoji tab decorations, but bear with me. I'm actually going to defend it. But before I get to that, I just want to say, Opera is one of those products I've gone in and out of for a long, long time. And, like Vivaldi, it felt a bit heavy, like a bit much, like a little too much customization, that kind of thing. But I don't know. I think because I've been using Arc so much, the most recent time I started using it, I was like, oh, no, this is good. Actually, this thing's good. And so emoji tab decorations, right? You're looking through a list of tabs. They have text maybe, or they're so small they don't have anything. So now you'll be able to add little emojis to some of your tabs so you can visually identify them quickly. It's actually a good idea. Richard and Leo don't see all of my notes, but all my top level stuff in Notion, I've added it's an icon, but it's an emoji basically for the same reason, because you have all these top level categories and I can read the text, but it's easy to parse a little image and it's a quicker way to get to that thing. It's actually, it sounds superfluous or silly, but I actually think it's a pretty good idea. So, screw you guys. All right. So anyway, that's in the latest build of Opera. You just get Opera 1, the default browser. And they also have a developer channel to get the AI feature drop. So if you want to keep up on that stuff, which is actually very interesting, and that's coming in fast and hot, you could use that version instead. But I would give Opera a chance. I've found myself using it a lot more in recent weeks.
It's interesting. And more so than Arc now.
Yeah, but this is part of because of the test. I always test different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is not me. It's like Paul's using an iPhone. It's like, yeah, I'm using an iPhone now. I mean, I go back and
ask me next week.
Yeah. So it's just the nature of what I do.
Yeah. At least you touch all the different things.
Touch all the things.
Mm-hmm.
That's my motto. I'm not listening to Paul's recommendations for browsers anymore. I moved to Arc and I'm not moving again.
Yeah,
you're done. You've got
actually,
it.
I like when you do like demo stuff. I see it come up in Arc and I'm like, nice. You can tell you're using it.
It's good. Arc and Windows. Yeah. Look at me.
I know you're a changed man.
Look at me. And I always
I don't even know you anymore.
I always like to check the widgets just to see what the big news story is. Wow,
that's why you do it.
Yeah,
that's why. I'm always wondering what's happening to the surviving members of the Partridge family. This is an excellent way to get to that information.
Did you know Lee Marvin was the toughest man in Hollywood? Did you know that?
Believe it.
Did you know these people found $8 cash back? $8
for a Microsoft advertisement.
In search of new shows this summer, here's the best TV to add to your list. Notable people who died this year. Where else are you going to find that, right? I just don't.
I know. It's just
I don't.
It's a giant light on the top of something.
And I don't know why
wonderful.
Microsoft put a little, breaking news thing on it either, for that matter.
I don't have it now, but I got a little notification. I clicked on it. It was something like, it was nothing. It was like the temperature is going to be 5 degrees higher today.
Yeah.
Like, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for the heads up.
It's nothing.
That's a Let me stop working.
Oh, wait a
so I
minute.
can
I'm
figure that
sorry.
one
Got to
out.
stop the show. 32 true memes. Now, see, 32
It's not a
true
meme if
memes
it's true.
that
Am
are,
I right?
that are hard to
It's a
argue
meme,
with.
Phil.
They're hard to argue
boy.
with, these two true memes. Got to see
Too
that.
true.
30 of them. Count it. Oh, and it's a slideshow. Don't you love it when they do slideshows?
It maximizes the ad.
It just gives
space.
you more ad revenue. Yeah, I love
That's
that.
it.
And I'm
It's all
all
about
about
I wish I
ad
could
revenue.
be that predatory. I just don't have it in me. You know, I don't have. I just can't. I just want as much plain text as possible.
All right, Richard,
I
your
know, I'm a
turn.
dinosaur.
See if you can turn this show around. Run as radio this week.
This morning we published episode 935, and this is one we did with Michael Epping, who works for Microsoft. He's one of the folks behind integrating Apple security into Azure Entra or Microsoft Entra. So the big thing, I mean, Apple devices have always been able to log into Windows resources and Azure resources to some degree, but the main thing they've done now is actually built a plugin to Apple's Secure Enclave. So this is the equivalent to TPM, to the Trusted Platform Management. And so you can, and it's bidirectional. That's the thing that astonished me, that you can use, this means you can literally use your Entra ID or your Azure ID to log into a Mac or an iPad. And it's a recognized identity. It's part of the system that will tie into Intune if you're going to use that for MDM, as well as give all of the proper access to resources around conditional access in Azure. So basically, Apple devices are now first-class citizens.
Very nice.
Yeah,
That's
it's a great
about
step
time.
forward, and it's
about
ongoing series on with the Entra folks. Ever since we started making fun of them on the show, Mark Morawski hunted me down, and so I've got more coming.
Is it kind
How
of
confusing would this be to an typical Apple user? Right? It's like sign in with your Apple
Entra.
D or your Microsoft Entra ID.
Yeah.
Like, wait,
Yeah.
what?
And it
What
just
just
worked.
happened?
But
Yeah,
it's kind of
crazy.
an acknowledgement that Apple is in the enterprise now. More,
Yeah, it absolutely
Yeah.
is, and a non-trivial part of it too,
Yeah.
right? Like
Oh,
it's a
that's
lot of devices.
Yeah. All right, I'm ready. We all, I think, are ready for a drink.
Ready for a drink?
What do you got?
This is the one I had last night, and I just haven't spent enough time in Japan lately. I had the Nikka's from the barrel, and it's got an interesting story behind it. We talked a bit about Japanese whiskey, I don't know, a year ago or so. And Nikka is one of the two original distilleries in Japan. 1918, Masataka Takesuru went to Scotland. His family were sake makers, and he wanted to do something different. And so he actually studied in Glasgow University, and under the guy named Nettleton, who wrote the original book in 1913 called The Manufacture of Whiskey and Plain Spirit. He interned at a few different distilleries in Scotland, even married a Scottish woman, but then he did return with her to Japan, and he fell in with Shinjiro Tori, also known as Tori-san, as in Suntory.
Ah.
So Suntory and Takesuru collaborated over building the original whiskey distillery in Japan, the Yamazaki distillery in between Kyoto and Osaka. And their whiskey was awful. And for quite a while, the original one was called the White Label. It did not sell particularly well. It's tough to make whiskey. Now, Tori-san was making plenty of money selling Portuguese fortified wine and things like that. So he was able to fund this for an extended period of time, but he had a contract with Takesuru, and Takesuru thought they were doing it wrong. In fact, to the point where he actually went back to Scotland and studied further. And then when the partnership ended in 1933, he established his own distillery in Hokkaido, which is the northern island of Japan, which he felt was climate-wise the most like Scotland. He thought that was important. And so that's the Nikkei distillery. And went on to make some very good whiskeys, without a doubt. They were the ones who won some of the first awards for Japanese whiskey, including the Yochi, which was peated and made from Japan. And they're the ones who also use the coffee stills. These are the continuous stills that are considered anathema in Scotland. And so you'll find Nikka coffee malts and coffee grains, which are based on those stills from the era. They're also willing to mix up their grains. They do use corn and things like that, as well as just barley.
That's why they're not a true Japanese whiskey then, yes?
Well, it's a question about what is true Japanese whiskey. And this particular whiskey, the Nikkei whiskey from the barrel, is a blended whiskey, and it's $70. That's pretty pricey for a blended whiskey, but the blend is 60% grain alcohol. Typical
bottle.
I love the bottle.
It's meant to be like a brick. It's got a metal cap to it.
Randomly, I held this bottle in my hand last night.
Oh, you're kidding!
The sushi place I go to, the guy goes to Japan all the time, and they had to start buying a different. I think Hibiki got really expensive, whatever. So he has two. I'm going to taste them tomorrow night, but he was showing them to me, and I'd never seen this design before. And then you started your thing, and I'm like, oh my god, this is.
I really like it.
You are following me just like Google is.
Yeah. This is a very utilitarian design, but it's simple, and I like it.
But it's minimalist, and it's smaller than it looks. It's a very small.
Yeah, it's a block. It's literally shaped like a brick. It stacks well, but it is designed. It is a blended whiskey, right? So this is like Famous Grouse or Chivas or any of those sorts of things, which is to say 60% of it is grain alcohol made in the Nikkei distillery, and then 40% is single malts. And although they're not specific, there is plenty of evidence to show it comes. Some of the barrels come from the Yoshi distillery. They also have the Miyagiko distillery, which is another one of Nikkei's distillery, and Ben Nevis in Scotland, which is owned by Nikkei. And that is a problem because that means it can't be called Japanese whiskey. And now those rules are new. It's only in 2021, and we talked about this when I first talked about Japanese distilleries. That in 2021, they created the rules for Japanese whiskey, which included that everything had to be made in Japan. They could use a variety of grains, including multigrain, but they didn't have to be confined to one. 3 years in wooden casks, but it has to be made in Japan. And Nikka was part of making these plans. And so in 2021, even though they had 3 years to comply, they basically announced, hey, our Nikka whiskey from the barrel is not a Japanese whiskey. It is a world whiskey. And it's because there's Ben Nevis in the bottom. Now, it is a weird blended whiskey. Like, it's weird. The 60% grain alcohol is not unusual. That's about right. But it's 51.4%. Blends tend to be 40 or 45, mostly 40. It's just a straight spirit limit. So it's odd that it's this high. But then to make it even stranger, it's chill filtered and caramel colored. Which is, if you're 51% alcohol, you don't need chill filtration. It's not going to cloud up. It's got too much alcohol in it. But my favorite idea, because I've read a lot on this, because I'm prone to these sorts of things down the rabbit hole of this, is that some of the barrels that are in this blend aren't that high of alcohol. And so they would cause some cloudiness. And so to be sure, after they blend it together, they do chill filtration to make sure that it stays clear. And then because they combine barrels, they add caramel to make the color consistent from version to version. Still, it's potent. And my drink last night reminded me this is the kind of drink you need at least two of. Because the first one's going to poke you pretty hard. The alcohol level's high. I mean, and there's another argument here that says you can put an ice cube in it because it's not going to dilute it that much. And it'll take the sharpness off. But the difference between the first drink and the second drink from the barrel is astonishing because your mouth does get calibrated for it. And there's beautiful wood in there and different fruit and caramel notes. Like, it is a lovely, lovely, very sippable whiskey. It's just pretty potent on that first sip. And is available in America, comes and goes. So the availability is spotty, but about $70 US, which is pricey for a blend, but not pricey for tasty whiskey.
No. What price tasty whiskey after all? Nikka. And Nikka whiskey from nikka.com.
But I do have an intent to go down the line of all of the new Japanese whiskeys that have been coming out because there is a ton of them.
Nice.
But I felt I had to talk about one of the we've talked about the two originals now. Suntory and Nikka, and now we can go off and wander.
Suntory is the one that owns the Maker's Mark and
they're right. That's become Suntory, which owns Beam, Maker's Mark, Bowmore, and a ton of others.
I'm trying to keep this in my head, but
you can't.
I've described.
Don't even try.
I need recall for that.
Yeah. Hey, let's just.
When did we talk about that?
Let's just check. I might be curious.
Hold on, Paul. I'm uploading your social security number to the cloud.
Oh, it's busy.
All right.
It's busy. It's busy. Hey,
busy.
who? What are the labels, the brands owned by Beam Suntory?
Beam Suntory.
Let's see. See if she knows. I call her
Beam
she.
Suntory owns several well-known brands, including Jim Beam, Maker's Mark, Knob Creek, Basil Hayden's, and Booker's in the bourbon category. They also own Lafroig, Bowmore, and Auchentoshan in Scotch whiskey. Other brands include Courvoisier, Cognac, Sosa, Tequila,
Cognac.
and Roku Gin, among others.
Cognac.
Is there a specific type of spirit or brand you're particularly interested in?
Yeah,
I can't stand the
Nika
follow-up
whiskey.
questions.
Nika whiskey is actually owned by Asahi Group Holdings, not Beam Suntory. Nika is a renowned Japanese whiskey
An
brand.
outlet of the
Isn't that
Japanese
wrong?
mob.
Isn't it?
No, that's
wrong?
correct. Nika is not owned by Suntory.
It's Asahi.
They're actually
Yeah,
rivals.
they're the two. They're the Coke and
So,
Pepsi.
see?
I guess.
Silicon's smarter than meat.
Yeah,
There you
got
go.
It. He may not pronounce the names, but he got them right.
Cognac is my favorite.
Cognac.
I love it.
You know, like it's spelled, Cognac.
He said Courvoisier perfectly, and then it said Cognac.
Yeah.
We have a
Cognac.
friend who goes to France and always says merci as mercy.
Mercy.
Like,
mercy.
mercy, great
Bowdrops.
balls of fire.
Holy
Or I
camole.
meant thank you.
Goodness gracious. It is 94 degrees here in beautiful Petaluma. I think time for me to take off my
Yikes.
clothes and run outside naked. But before
Oh,
I
sorry,
do
we're going to
that,
miss that.
I will thank
So
Paul
many
Thurrott
names.
and Richard Campbell for joining us. I would jump in a giant barrel of whiskey if we had one. Paul is, of course, at Thurrott.com, THURROTT.com. Become a premium member and get so much great writing, but the free stuff's good too. It's really a wonderful site to keep up with everything we love here at Windows Weekly. He also writes a couple of great books for Windows lovers, Windows Everywhere, which is a bit of a history of Windows through its languages and dev tools. He also has written the Field Guide and keeps up to date, amazingly, the Field Guide to Windows 11, now with Windows 10 inside. Both of those available.
In its nougaty center.
It's a caramel center. Both of them available at leanpub.com. Richard Campbell has two shows that he does, as you know, runasradio.net rocks. They're both available at runasradio.com. Why are you in Toronto in the big
I
smoke?
am doing an AI thing for Microsoft Canada.
See?
Tomorrow.
There you go.
AI thing. Could you be slightly more cryptic?
No, I really can't. That's about as cryptic as I'm going to be. But next week in Amsterdam, and the week after that in Oslo,
Amazing.
and the week after that in Berlin.
Wow.
Wow.
The summer jaunt has begun. Paul, you're just going to stay in Mexico City.
I'm just here.
Yeah.
Oh, and I got some good news. I think my daughter's taking our cats, which means we can start spending more time here.
Awesome.
You mean like permanently?
And we
taking
made
the
it seem
cats?
like her idea. It was genius.
Wow. Wow. Is she going to sell them to a farmer so that they can run free out there? And
You know what? She can do whatever she wants.
you don't care. You don't care.
Couldn't care less.
Yeah, the cats are what keeps us at home.
Yeah,
That's for
tough.
sure. It's for sure.
It sounds silly, but it's a problem.
No, yeah.
I mean, we have friends and family. I'm not I'm
No,
not
they're
saying
little
all-
fur
but
babies, though. You got to take care of them. You can't just leave them in the lurch.
They go into PTSD every time we come back
I
from
know.
a trip. It takes
I
them like
know.
2 weeks to settle
I know.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sammy's the same way. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Richard. Thanks to our winners and dozers, all of you who listen, not lose. Sorry, did I say lose? No. All of you who listen. If you are not yet a member of Club Twit, please consider joining. If you are, bless you. Thank you for your support. You're keeping this show on the air and all of the stuff we do. Twit.tv/ClubTwit. Did I mention that? Thanks to everybody. We do this show on Wednesdays, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1800 UTC. You can watch us on YouTube. It's open to all. YouTube.com/twit/live. But you can also watch on the Discord, and you'll get stuff in between shows if you watch on the Discord, if you're a Club Twit member. After the fact, on-demand versions of the show are available at Paul's site, Thurrott.com, and, of course, at twit.tv/WW. YouTube has a Windows Weekly channel. But the best way to watch or listen, we make audio and video available, is to subscribe. That way you get it automatically as soon as we're done, and you've got it for whenever you've got a moment to listen to the best show about Microsoft on the planet. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Richard. Have a great week. Enjoy your travels. And we'll see you right here next week on Windows Weekly. Bye-bye.